Hey, it's me, and it's Seth. How are you?
I'm good.
That's fantastic.
Last minute bat signal. I was like, I'm sorry, but you got an empty chair you need to fill? Well, I have a pulse and an opinion.
Yeah.
Call me before.
That's our jobs.
I would just want everybody to know, by the way, just off air, Forrest actually spoke the words, "Well, I'm half your age." He actually said those words to me. And I don't think I'm going to be okay. I don't think
it was meant to be humbling to me because I was giving you advice. And I was like, as someone half your age that hasn't been, you've been doing this for so much longer, but just in my opinion, here's what I'm thinking. And I didn't want to come across.
No, it happened earlier. I just posted a piece with Guts Gibbon with Erica about the chain of human evolution over 7 million years. And she has a reference where she talks about Jane Goodall publishing something in the 1900s and people died inside. They're like, the 1900s? Like, what are we churning butter on the porch? I mean, has electricity been invented yet? We don't know. It was just a moment everybody had. It was pretty awesome. So
I love the idea of like, you want to turn on some turn of the century music, like Green Day, some
yeah. Or people talk about how, did you know we are 80s children are closer to, I don't know, the end of the Great Depression than they are to today or something like that. Just like, God. Oh God. It just hurts me. But
I did a video.
I can live with it. I mean, what's the alternative?
I did this one video where I showed it was, so I'm 32 years old right now. And I was born in 1992. And I did this video where it was a TikTok filter, which wasn't terribly accurate, but like you typed in any particular year and it would say like what major things were invented in that year. And so I showed in 1992, it was like some whatever, like lasers or something was like a big thing or whatever. Right. And then I was like, okay, but 32 years before I was born was the year 1960. And we have the beginnings of like Barbie and stuff. And like the people are going to look back at my kids born today will look at my birthday the way I do the year 1960. And you look at the things that I grew up with, the way that I think about Barbie is this thing that's just permanent, that's always been around, you know what I mean? Or lasers or whatever else the hell it is. And like that thought's wild. And that video got like millions of views of people just being like, well, that is immensely depressing. Yes, you're absolutely right.
We should go lie down. Oh, I just need a moment. I just jumped in there I don't know if there are credits that are supposed to happen, but you and I get together and I just find myself like, it's an amusement park for the mind with Forrest Valkai. So it's good to be back. Good to be here.
Oh, well, that's you know what? That could be an insult, but like, I'm going to take it as a compliment and I appreciate that. We've got a great show for everybody tonight. I'm Matt Dillahunty today. And as such, I'm going to open the lines not only for theists, but for anybody else who wants to call in with any kind of supernatural claim. If you believe in ghosts or demons or if you believe in ghosts or demons or angels or spirits or reincarnation, or if you would like preferably to defend the Bible, the God of the Bible, the Jesus of the Bible, the Jesus that you believe in, your personal iteration of this God or these gods, we would love to hear about it, as well as any science deniers out there listening. We've got a lot of like flat earthers out there. We got a lot of anti-vaxxers out there. We got a lot of creationists out there. Would love a good creationist call. Earlier on the Sunday show, I saw that Promise was talking to, it was Promise and Paul were talking to somebody who had like really common questions about the Big Bang and about evolution and their place in faith. I would love to talk to that person or anybody like them, as well as homophobes and transphobes. You are among the noisiest of all science deniers at this point. And I would love to talk to you. We get an increasing amounts of comments like, oh, this show uses pronouns. Call the fuck in, because I would love to talk to you. Seth, you have been venting some feelings to me
Oh, Jesus.
today.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. I have similar feelings. I'll talk about it if you don't want to talk about it, but I'd love to hear your thoughts.
We can bounce off each other. I don't know about you, but what's that metronome that says there's hope for humanity, and on the other side it says we're all fucked? Or
Yeah.
be informed about the world, but I also want to keep my sanity. That's kind of where I'm at, and I've been going back and forth. I've been looking for a distraction. No kidding, Forrest. On Saturday night, I've been invited to go on a ghost tour at an allegedly haunted theater in a suburb or in a small town in Oklahoma. So I am. I'm going to be. Apparently, there's an actual ghost hunting group that's going to be there with all their tools, and then there's me and another fellow skeptic. And we promise to play nice. I'm not going to be a jerk. We're not going to be spoil sports. We're going to have some fun. I might take a Ouija board and some other stuff. I'm certainly going to take cameras and microphones, and we're going to spend the night in this haunted theater, and I'll let everybody know. So that's going to be like bubblegum for the brain to kind of get me out. But Natalie and I are having real trouble. We're having trouble sleeping at night. We knew it would be bad. I didn't know it would be. I don't think anybody thought it would be this bad, this fast, this extreme, this fast. And I'm that guy where, and I posted a speech called "Why Facts Don't Change Minds," and we get into identity beliefs and why insulting people will never change their mind, and because when you have a belief that's grafted to your identity, then you're defending something that is personal, branded onto your bones, and so by saying that you're an idiot is not how that person is going to have an epiphany. In 99.999% of the cases, I am convinced. And so I've really, I try to engage in a different way, but there was somebody that I've known for 12 years, proud Trump voter, who was just spouting this batshit dear leader rhetoric. He has come to save us all, and they are quite willing to suspend the rules, to suspend decency, to suspend norms, to dismantle the Constitution, to, they're like, if you want an omelet, you got to break some eggs. They are quite happy to say, look, we're going to have the equivalent of martial law because we trust this one person enough to go in, wipe it all clean, and then rebuild something in our or God's image. In the end, and this billionaire cares deeply about us. He cares about the common man, and and of course, I'm going through all of the horrors of his life and the things that he has done illegally and immorally, the court rulings against him, the fact that his own ghostwriter Tony Schwartz came forward and said, "Look, I wrote The Art of the Deal. It's fiction. We were selling books. No one thought he would run for president." We talked about the producer of The Apprentice who came forward and said, "I bear responsibility for building this man's myth. He was a failing businessman, and we marketed him as the wise billionaire, like the super genius." That was all that was TV imaging. That was us getting ratings. This is not true, and I bear some responsibility. We get through, stalking the teenage girls and grab them by the pussy and paying off the porn stars and all the stuff that Jesus-loving Christians should be freaking out about. Because if anybody else had done it, they would be tearing their Fox News t-shirts and losing their minds. But somehow they've just shut all of those centers down and said, well, we're going to allow it. And so this person that I've known casually on the tennis court for 10 years, and I have an engagement, and it was hot. Because I just felt like, how can you do this kind of damage? How can you enable this kind of cruelty? How can you elect the arsonist and somehow childishly expect that he will only burn down the bad shit that you don't like? Because eventually he will come for you. Whatever privileged class you live in, once he's done screwing everybody else over, once he's done with the grift and the corruption and the aggrandizement and the power grab and stuffing his bank accounts and harming other people, he will come for you. He's going to come for you. It is in his nature. And the naivety of these people, I swear, it has been a long afternoon that that is a friendship ended.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and I just can't. I cannot with these people. And
No,
part of me hates that about myself. Because part of me is like, well, we need to try to engage. And then the other part of me is, Jesus Christ, how many fucking years does it take for someone to see the grift and the grifter, the con and the con man, the sociopath who is actively, gleefully hurting people? He loves hurting people. And if you are an agent of the best teachings of Jesus Christ, if you were to go through the Bible and harvest out the best teachings, and there are some good ones in there, right? You want to go and say, love thy neighbor and be humble and turn the other cheek and be charitable and blessed are love your enemies. I don't believe that one. But I mean, sure, if you want to say that the Bible is true, love your enemies, don't take vengeance, don't lust, don't covet, don't do all these horrible things. And then you want to support and enable the one who is the antithesis of all of that and look me square in the eye and expect me to take you seriously. You are in for a long night. I'm done, Forrest. Sorry about that. Sorry, I'm done.
You have nothing to apologize for.
I'm literally going to breathing exercise, and I'm going to sip coffee out of my brand new Xenomorph coffee mug, which gives me joy.
No, you have nothing to apologize for, because that's exactly what I wanted to that's why I asked you to express the exact same things you're talking to me about off camera, because for real, I don't think you need to feel bad about cutting off a friendship like that, because there's so many people that are at this point saying, oh, you're gonna cut off family, you're gonna cut off friends, you're gonna not talk to them anymore just because of a difference in political opinion. Yeah, because if there's a difference in how we should be funding public schools, we can be friends. If there's a difference in how we should be taking care of the homeless, we can be friends. If there's a difference in what we should be spending our tax dollars on, should it be a little bit more in the roads or a little bit more into the hospitals? Should it be infrastructure? Those are things we can have policy decisions and be good friends with all of that. I cannot be friends through this major rift in ideals and morality. If you're talking about supporting this guy who is talking about mass deportations, rounding up by his estimate, by his numbers, tens of millions of people, which a regular deportation is a lengthy and difficult process. It's not what these fucking people like to think, where it's just literally we snatch somebody up with a big old butterfly net like a 1940s dog catcher and throw them in a bus and they just go back to Mexico and live a happy life somewhere else. It is an arduous and expensive and timely and stressful situation, and you're talking about doing that for what would that be? That's almost 3 or 4 times the amount of the entire prison population of the United States as it is. And the United States already has the largest prison population of any country in the world. And we're talking about doing quadruple that overnight so that we can detain all of these people and process them. That is the definition of what a concentration camp would be. And then they're talking about...
oh, I'm sorry. I heard a pause. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say that, and that's exactly what we're looking at now when we're talking about expanding Guantanamo Bay, a place which is a stain on American history, which is at most held a couple hundred people. Now we're talking about putting thousands and thousands of people there. We're talking about expanding prisons in El Salvador to dump people into. We're talking about all of this genuinely heinous shit, which is all driven on the idea that you have this motherfucker standing on stage saying, well, these people, I don't really think they are people sometimes. Sometimes you can't even call them people, but the liberals don't like it when I say that. No human should like it when you say that, because that is fucking dangerous language. This same idiot who gets up there on stage and is pointing to pictures of just generic brown people and saying, you want this? Does this look like your neighbor? Do you want your neighbor to be this way? No, we need this out of our community. It is blatant, patent racism. And you see these people who are now these what do you call it? Recovering MAGA people coming out and saying, well, they deported my good friend who owns this restaurant. And I didn't think they'd go for, he was a hardworking good guy. I thought they were just going to go after the bad hombres. Oh, you only wanted them to be racist to people that you didn't know personally. I get it. Sure. It's real easy to have that fucking flimsy veil of hatred and xenophobia that protects you from the moral responsibility of sympathizing with literal fucking Nazis. And like
Well,
that's,
and I think, when you talk about agreement, disagree, which is something that my friend had brought up, I guess I call her a former, I don't want to be petty about it. I agree with the relationship, but it was, wow, I can at least be in the room with someone I disagree with and we can still be friends. And I'm like, we can disagree and be friends that's types of salad dressing, right? That's Chiefs or Eagles. That's you mentioned, how do we fix public education? That's we can disagree on theology or even philosophy, but when it comes to active harm to the people and causes I care about, that is not just a disagreement. That's really a separation in values. You are saying you're willing to commit great harm. And another thing that I have noticed, and this is classic Trump, but it's also rampant in MAGA culture. We can all be guilty of reductive things. We can all be guilty of trying to simplify the extremely complex. But it's like when Trump says he wants to, totally clear out, ethnically cleanse Gaza, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you are a Bible-banging MAGA conservative, you don't know anything about Gaza. You don't know anything about Hamas. You don't know anything about the oppression of the vast majority of the people who are oppressed by Islamic extremists are themselves Muslims. This is true in every authoritarian state where Islam reigns. And yet with Iran or whoever, this attitude of, hey, drop a nuke on them, turn it all to glass. I mean, fuck those people. They're all terrorists. They're all bombers. They all hate our God anyway. They're in rebellion. They have it coming. It's totally dismissive of all of the precious, valuable human beings whose lives are in the crosshairs, who live every day yearning for liberation. Christopher Hitchens used to talk about all of these oppressed Muslims who were yearning, aching to be free of the hijab, free of the hierarchy, free of the totalitarians and the ayatollahs and the mullahs and everybody else. And so this idea that one guy who is functionally illiterate, certainly illiterate in terms of foreign policy, find Gaza on a globe for me, Trump, that guy is going to make the unilateral decision to either kill them or move them, deport them, isolate them. I don't know what he wants to do with them. So he can build the goddamn Riviera Hotel, put his name on the top of it, which is really what it's all about, and dehumanize an entire culture of people. There is rampant dehumanization, whether it's they're eating the dogs or they're the rapists who are coming over the border or the trans people who are going after your children in the school bathroom, or it is an authoritarian tactic. You take away their humanity, right? They are the vermin. And then once they are no longer human, you can do whatever you want to them. And that is exactly what authoritarians have done throughout history. And that is what's happening now. And 77 goddamn million Americans just voted to support that in what is supposedly a free and democratic nation. Yes, I'm a little upset about that. Forrest Valkai, I'm done monopolizing the clock. Sorry about that. You're
damn right. You are not monopolizing. You're damn right. Okay. Because this literally just happened a couple of days ago when Trump was getting up and saying this dumb shit about how he just stopped us from sending $50 million worth of condoms to Hamas. I don't know if you heard about this, but he said we were sending $50 million worth of condoms to Gaza for Hamas to use to make bombs. And you hear something like that, and you're like, what the actual fuck could you possibly be talking about? And it turns out we were spending a tremendous amount of money for sex education and STI prevention in a place called Gaza in fucking Africa. Gaza, I believe it was in Mozambique or some shit. It was this other Gaza on the other hemisphere. And this dumb son of a bitch heard the word Gaza, translated that in his head to Hamas, and then added on, then bombs are involved because he just decided. That came completely out of this northwest region of his own asshole. And he just presents that to the world now. And this is what's so dangerous about misinformation. Is that it used to be when the president spoke, it fucking meant something. Now, it either means, he's obviously not telling the truth, or I hope he's lying because that's obviously so silly. Either way, these MAGA people are going to go to the mat defending it. But this is how stupidity becomes misinformation, which then becomes justification for genocide. Because now the people who listen to him and say, that's so ridiculous, there's no way he's just pulling it out of his ass. There's no way anybody could make that up. That's so absurd. Same thing as like the whole they're eating the dogs and eating the cats. That's so absurd. It sounds crazy to say this person would just make that shit up, which he fucking did. He just fucking made it up. When they hear this stuff, they are then going to defend slaughter in this region and ethnic cleansing in this region. Israel is committing genocide in Gaza. They have been for a while, and America is largely funding it. We're sending tens of billions of dollars worth of funding to it. And now we're not only talking about continuing to do this, but making it dramatically and exponentially worse by Donald Trump now coming out and saying, yes, we need to just clean the whole damn place out, and America should move in and own it and build beachfront property there. And you're absolutely right. It's 100% so he can build his own damn hotel. It always is that. And now people are going to support that further and buy into that further because of the propaganda, the brainless, thoughtless propaganda that Trump just preached from his own pulpit. And this is what we see over and over is this guy is completely brainless when it comes to foreign policy, when it comes to domestic policy, when it comes to literally anything, just says whatever the random ravings of a dopey old man who watches too much Fox News would say. And because it's coming from a big podium with the presidential seal on it, it gets that much more credibility and has that much more dangerous support behind it that allows for the kind of hate and just complete dehumanization that we've been seeing over the past several years. And now suddenly, I guess some Democrats have decided to grow a spine a little bit, and we have the first articles of impeachment being filed against him already, less than a month into his term, because of the ethnic cleansing of Gaza. Now, I guess it's a problem, which, thank goodness, where the fuck were you guys for the past 4 years, or 70, but whatever, like at least it's something. It's so, sorry, go ahead.
No, not at all. You had said something and it totally slipped my mind, and maybe it'll pop back in. But I think the Israel situation is interesting to me because, and my father's passed away, but my father and mother used to have a sticker on their car that was pro-Israel, and they were proudly pro-Israel. And what that did was, because they believed that they were Zionists, and they believed that Israel, God's chosen people, were part of a precursor to the end times. God had favored this group, blah, 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 and they must be protected at all costs. And so talk about reductive thinking. What they had done is Israel must be protected as a sovereign nation at all costs. This was not a conversation about whether or not Israel deserved to be a nation politically, which is a different conversation. This was, they can do whatever they want because they're Israel. And anybody who criticizes Netanyahu, anyone who says that they are committing hell, even Israeli people are pissed at Netanyahu for the shit that he's doing, right? But the idea is that this is all part of a magical revelation narrative, which will bring the end of the world and start this sort of eternity in heaven, not sort of, but an eternity in heaven. And it's just one example of how we have to defeat magical thinking on the macro level. People will often say, why can't you just let people believe what they want to believe without bothering them? And I always say, well, that's a wonderful sentiment. It's also jaw-droppingly infantile because beliefs translate into action or inaction. They do not exist in a bubble. So people who think that Israel should be able to do whatever they want and we should help fund it, even if it means murdering women and children and civilians and non-combatants and non-Hamas, whoever. Well, hey, the Bible, right? If they say, well, I don't think the vaccine is effective and vaccines cause autism. If they say that, then that affects their vulnerable children and the people around them. If they say any number of things and excuse it with magical thinking, religion, pseudoscience, etc., this ripples out to create a net negative effect in the culture, potentially endangering others. And it's one of the reasons I think that after all these years, I still speak out heavily against fundy religions, because those who are primed into magical thinking will be untethered to the rest of the world. And sadly, their vote counts exactly as much as mine does. That's a problem. So yes, I would like to see their feet on solid ground, and they're not going to get a pass because they say, why are you stealing my joy? Why can't we all just respect each other? Why can't we disagree and be friends? Sometimes no. You need to be made uncomfortable because the bad idea, the pseudoscience, the grift, the magical thinking, just the wrong-headedness is hurting people. And you need to know that there are those aggrieved by it. So that's kind of where I've been over the past few days. And I'm sure I'll calm. Well, I don't know if I'll calm down. Maybe I'll just turn into a raving lunatic. I don't know what's going to happen.
No, I hope you don't.
I don't know.
And that's the thing. I don't want to. I talk to these people. I get messages from these people all the time. I get comments from these people all the time. When I say these people, I mean MAGA people. These people who are still continuing to support Trump. And frankly, what bothers me is the complete suspension. You touched on this earlier. We're talking about somebody being very anti-Christ-like.
Yeah.
Like the complete suspension of every single moral principle that this party has been running on for the past for as long as I've been alive. I don't want to hear shit about this being, America first and we're proud to be Americans from the guy they just said that the Constitution is unconstitutional and pardoned all of the January 6th insurrectionists who killed cops and are now already out here being arrested and committing more violent crimes. I don't want to hear shit about the party of law and order, and we have to protect our country from these dangerous immigrant criminals, from the person who voted for somebody with 34 felonies. I don't want to hear shit about protecting our children, for the people who voted for the guy who bragged about getting to go backstage for the child beauty pageants that he used to own and see these beautiful bodies of these children because he was allowed to do it. I don't want to hear shit about respecting women and protecting women and standing up for tradition from the people who voted for grab them by the pussy, the people who voted for I just start kissing, I don't even ask permission, the people who voted for the guy who calls women pigs and dogs and says it's very hard for someone with a flat chest to be a 10, for the person who voted for the guy who hit on his own daughter and said he'd be dating her if they weren't related. I don't want to hear shit about economic security and fiscal conservatism and all this stuff about the economy and all stuff from somebody who doesn't know what the fuck a tariff is. If you have no idea how that works, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear shit about freedom and about patriotism and about making America great from people who are supporting the de facto president doing a Nazi salute on stage, and the actual supposed president saying that we can't even call these people really humans and that they're poisoning the blood of our country and saying verbatim Hitler shit. And then when he gets called out on it, saying, well, Hitler said it different. I don't want to hear shit from you because you very clearly don't give a damn about any of these things. You care about what your God King Trump wants. That's what you actually care about. You care about the cult that you're in. You don't care about the values that you espouse. Otherwise, you would be standing up for actual freedom, actual equality, actual diversity. You wouldn't be talking about, you have Trump on stage saying, we have people from 100 countries coming here. We're like a wastebasket. We're like a trash can. We used to call it a melting pot. That's what we used to call it when people from around the world wanted to come here because we're so goddamn great. And then they would come here and they would make this country even better. And we brought the best people from around the world. Now, because they're different from you, they're not the best people anymore. They need to be white to be the best people. And I swear to fucking God, if anybody tries to tell me that it's anything different than that, I would love to hear any one part, anything that Trump has ever said, especially in this campaign, which differentiates the greatness that he thinks that brings in, that diversity brings. It's not. It's just fucking racism. When you have the first major plane crash in, what is it, like 15, 17 years, the first major plane crash, and before we even know what happened, you've got the leader of the free world standing up here and saying, what it really was? It's because there's women and disabled people. That's the problem. Fuck all the way off. If you support this guy even for a second, you do not give a shit about anybody but yourself. You simply don't. And especially, I swear to fucking God.
Have you seen that montage of Donald Trump saying he is an expert on all of the different subjects that come his way?
Of course.
He talks about the Middle East, and he talks about banking, and he talks about the economy, and he talks about AI or whatever. And there's a montage, and it doesn't matter what it is. Nuclear power. No one knows more about me than nuclear power. Nobody knows more about. And I'm like, I'm sorry, what, the Nobel laureate over here? You know more than that guy. And nobody questioned it.
Yep.
And then, of course, he's waving the Bible, right? He tear gasses the crowd in D.C. so that he can stand in front of a church he does not attend and hold up a Bible he does not read. This, again, is messaging, right? He is the authority. He's holding up the ultimate authoritarian book. This is supposed to give him the power and say and do whatever he wants because he's God's proxy. He's asked about, well, what's your favorite verse? He's like, I don't want to get into that. I don't know. And I'm like, this guy knows nothing.
And this is the same guy who said, I remember in 2 Corinthians, they said these. It's like, you don't know shit. I know more shit.
Look, I am not a wealthy guy at all. Okay. I'm just a modest, middle-aged activist in the Midwest. I would pay $1,000 to give Donald Trump a basic Bible quiz on camera. I would go to my savings and I would scrounge and I would find $1,000 to give Donald Trump
I'd chip in.
Basic Bible quiz on camera. And I would watch that guy crash and burn like the Hindenburg, right?
Did you see that he posted on True Social, he posted a poll, the results of a poll about like how confident are you in the president? I forgot what exactly but it was about like, just like support from his people. And he's like, look at these people, like this is all these different age groups, and this is how confident you are in my leadership and how much you support me and all this stuff. And it was around like the 60%. Like it wasn't great numbers, but what was especially funny about it is where that poll came from. That was not just a general public opinion poll, like a Pew Research type shit. That was a poll sent out by his campaign to people on his mailing list only. When you went to the poll, the first question was, are you a citizen? Otherwise, close the poll right now. And then when you went through the survey, it was like, do you support Trump's efforts in this thing? Yes, MAGA, or no, I hate America. And then one of them was like, what's your gender? Male, female, or insane? And like this was the level of this poll. And then the kicker is, in order to submit the poll, you had to make a donation, which, by the way, he's not even fucking running anymore. So what are you donating to? But he sent a poll to people that were already on his support list, who had to go through the ringer of saying they support him again and again, and then pay him money to submit the poll. And he still couldn't break 70% on like confidence and support and shit. And like, that's what is like this veil is so flimsy and so thin. It is only the radical cultists that still support him that are holding this shit together. And you see it when we have RFK Jr., someone who literally could not lift a medical textbook if he tried. Just the most worthless, zero experience, zero understanding of anything, is now going to be leading public health. You've got, just over and over and over, people who are just complete, their only qualification is that they are a sycophant. That is what allows you've turned blue. That is what allows them to gain power and influence in this fucking regime. It's just a cult. And the people who support it are just a cult. And I sit here and I rally against Trump supporters and MAGA people all the time. And I'm sure I get plenty of people just like, oh, well, these liberal people. The biggest thing for me, dude, I don't have kids. I don't like pets. But like anybody out there, if you have fucking daughters and you voted for this guy, that's what I can't handle. If you have especially daughters, and you voted for this motherfucker, you have just told them that if anybody rapes them, you might still vote for him to be president. Like, that's the disqualification. This dude was found fucking guilty of rape and had to pay tens of millions of dollars. And you're like, you know what, though? Egg prices, am I right? That is the message you have sent to your children. You know what I'm saying?
Something has just happened to me. Apparently, I pulled up a different window and it has removed.
Gone into another dimension.
Color blue. Arden, am I able to pop out and then pop back in? That should fix the problem.
Yeah.
Am I going to screw something up?
No, you can just hit refresh. Should be fine.
Hold, please. Let me.
Yeah, I'll just sit right here. Yeah. Oh, that's a good one. That's a good. There you go. You look great.
Is that better?
That's perfect.
Am I able to screen share? I finished the argument, and I'm not proud of this. But I finished the argument with a friend of mine. They called me satanic. They said, I used to defend you even though I'm a Christian, but you and all the other Dems are satanic. And so And so I said, well, I wondered how long it would be before somebody invoked Satan. Fortunately, as the book of Second Timothy says that you should flee from evil, you can now
You mean
buy
2 Timothy, of
Trump
course.
tennis shoes. And I actually posted a picture of the $499 pre-order Trump shoes, but I changed all the marketing graphics all around it in Photoshop. It says, nothing outruns Satan like Trump sneakers. Dawn bronzed with just enough white. Perfect for fleeing felonies and chasing underage girls. They walk on water, and they are lab-tested devil-proof. And I just left that on the conversation there, and I haven't heard back. So I don't know if that makes me childish and I'm a bad person, but I think sometimes humor, right? You just have to laugh. Sometimes you have to.
You need a creative outlet, otherwise you'll explode. I'm editing the new Sex and Sensibility video right now that I've been talking about for several months and said that I would have out 2 months ago, and I'm editing it, and some of the arguments that I'm making in there where I'm talking about like just the future of research and anything, and I'm like, it's already a problem. It's already a problem that I'm saying these things and they preempted me. They're now putting out this crazy shit about, I don't know if you heard, but scientists at the CDC have been told to retract and revise any paper published in any journal that mentions words like gender or LGBT or assigned sex at birth. And now there's, I think it's the NSF, if you submit a grant application to the National Science Foundation, which is what paid for my research, that you now are immediately denied if it includes words like woman or female or disability or trauma or inequality or any, and it's not like, it's very clearly a 2-year-old who doesn't like woke wrote down, was like, oh yeah, when they talk about trauma, they mean like that psychology stuff, and we don't like that here. There is literally no more medical research. If we can't talk about trauma and disability, a gunshot wound is a type of trauma, right? We can't talk about disability. We can't talk about disease and like what that causes. We can't talk about women or females in any capacity. Just those words aren't allowed anymore. And it's like you are just going out of your way to try so dumbly to make everybody as stupid as you so that you can control them more easily. This is why, the dictators of old, this is why fucking Pol Pot, the first people he killed, or some of the first people, were anyone with glasses and good teeth, because it meant you had an education and you were harder to your control because you asked questions. Like, this is exactly the same kind of shit. It is the eradication of evidence and the destruction of data in order to support the just genuinely stupid worldview of this man and his fucking cult members. Because then they can say that science is on their side because they've destroyed all science that goes against them. It is precisely the same shit that the Nazis did.
A website called DEI Watch List. Now, we don't know where this site has come from, but it has published photos, names, and public information of a number of workers across government health agencies, most specifically the Department of Health and Human Services. It describes the people on the list with their photos and names. It describes them as targets. These are largely black people and those who voted Democrat. All right. They are creating a list, a hit list, not for necessarily for assassination, but like for like cultural, social, financial assassination, to literally wipe them out of their jobs, to wipe them out of relevance, maybe even to take away their constitutional right to participate in the system, vote, whatever, because they are quote unquote traitors. I never thought we would go this far, this fast, but we certainly have. So anyway, we're going to keep, I know I'm going to keep pounding the drum out there as best I can. I think one of the challenges is, what do we do beyond, I've contacted my Congress people, but I mean, I know there are marches. There are people that, around the country today in all 50 states who were demonstrating, and I'm hoping that chorus, explodes, because it doesn't seem nearly enough.
No, it is hard, and like that is the biggest thing, is that like this DIY watch list. I haven't seen that one. If anybody knows about it, if there's like any kind of like a number or an email address or anything like that. That you can like a tip line, a place where you can like send in tips and reports. Certainly don't get all your friends together and just send them like copies of the B movie script and remind them that people like Greg Abbott and Elon Musk are DEI hires as well, and just flood their systems with false reports and silly ass shit to just gum up the works. That'd be a terrible thing to do. Don't do that.
And Elon actually was an undocumented immigrant, right? He came here and he quit college, which meant when he stayed, he was outside the law. He was breaking the law. Somebody was mentioning Melania, and they're like, well, why would Trump hate immigrants when he married Melania? And I'm like, she came here on a tourist visa and just fucking stayed. Like, which was illegal at the time.
Overstaying your visa is how like most illegal immigration happens. Yeah, it's funny how that works, right? Yeah. And like that's, dude, oh my glob, it's so fucking frustrating. I think it's great that there's more people, going out and demonstrating, like corporeal activism, actually getting out of your house and being physically present in the streets. There's immense power in that. Just make sure.
Corporeal. Points for that. That's a good word.
Thank you. Just make sure when you do it, don't touch the bricks. No construction company in the fucking world leaves pallets of bricks for several blocks around the city just in case they might need them. They're a trap. Don't touch the fucking bricks. Make sure you cover your face. Don't touch the fucking bricks. And be on the lookout for fucking scumbags that are trying to convince you to not be safe, helpful, and nonviolent at all times, because those dumb motherfuckers that carry black umbrellas and shit, you know what I'm talking about, they're there to discredit the organization and to start violence so that you all look bad and they can avoid the hard work of not thinking. Don't let that happen. What we got, man? I want to talk about this for a long time.
42 minutes.
Yeah, we should do a show, huh? We should do a show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a whole thing. Also, when you're taking pictures of a protest, making sure you're not just trying to build your own clout, because you don't know who you're taking pictures of, and if any of those people might, be undocumented, might have a warrant, might be on the run from an abusive spouse, you could be fucking up a lot of other people as well. And police do go through those photos, and they do arrest people way after the fact. So be fucking smart and don't be helpful. Don't be there for your own ego. We got a show. And we've got lines are already full, but we're going to try to crank through as many as possible so we can open up lines further. If you're an atheist and you're calling us, make sure it's for a very good reason. Please, we want to take as many theist calls as possible. With that, let's start with, how about Sean? Sean's been waiting for a little while. Sean is a theist who says he believes that, pronouns he, him, believes we've been living in the revelation since 2017. We'd love to hear why. Sean, you're on the line with Forrest and Seth. How are you doing today?
No, sorry. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Sean, please, let's begin the conversation. What's on your mind?
So just a little bit of a background. I'm a millennial that I grew up Catholic, and after my first communion, I became agnostic. I decided religion, there's a lot of plot holes and shit in there. So that kind of was me for a few years until probably around 2017, whenever I started becoming Satanist. And the reason why I was becoming a Satanist is because I had a friend, and really, really smart friend, that basically was wanting to bring about the revelations or whatever the fuck. I personally thought, good, this is going to be the end of religion. It's really highly manipulative, and there's really no reason for the entire world to be obsessed with one book in itself. So I wanted to basically be a voice of reason or whatever whenever shit happened.
Well,
I don't
I'm
understand what
hearing
we're
some
doing.
precursor. Apparently, what is designed to be kind of a backstory, perhaps even a credibility builder, which I appreciate. You're saying that you were an atheist, then a Satanist. What are you now, and what's the argument you'd like to make?
Well, I was leaning towards atheist whenever I started like talking, like
So,
listening to you
what
so
are
guys.
you
Sean,
now?
Sean, I'm sorry. We get a million calls, and I have to sit through like 10 minutes of like, well, I was this, and then I did that, and I've heard it all before. So, just what Seth asked you is, what is your religion now, and why do you believe it?
I basically am a Discordian, if any, Discordian Satanist, satanic Discordian. I don't
Cool.
fucking know.
Right on. Good.
Yeah,
Good start. That
sorry
you don't
for
know what to call
sorry for
yourself.
cussing.
That's fine. No, it's fine. Just a weird start. But like, where?
Forrest, what or Sean? What's it? What's a Discordian Satanist? I know, like the Church of Satan. I know the Satanic Temple, like the non-theistic Satanist as well.
All right.
What's a
Well,
Discordian?
a Discordian, that basically is a made-up religion from the 1970s. Basically, worshiping Eris, like the Greek god Eris, but it's basically the worship of order and chaos. I basically think that like the world revolves around order and chaos caused by demons that, well, not really demons, but just entities that basically are subconsciouses of human collectives. So like,
Where do
yeah,
we
cult
get
of personalities and
from?
things like that.
Where I've talked to Discordians before, I've never gotten like a productive description of what all this means out of it. I'm curious to know, like, where do we get from there to the revelation is happening? So how do we go from you believe in order and chaos and demons but not really demons and worshiping Eris but not really worshiping Eris, all the way to at least one book of the Bible is true and it's happening? Where's the bridge?
All right. So I've been reading through the Book of Revelations for a while, and I have been seeing a lot of correlations that have been happening. But in my one thing to get over with right here is that I believe that God has no conscience. Okay,
but you do believe that a God exists.
I believe it's a moniker that people hold. So let's. The idea
I'm trying
God,
to cut down to exactly what this is. So are you talking about like Spinoza's God, where God is just the word that we use for the laws of the universe and that it actually isn't a real thinking agent? Is that what you're saying you believe in?
Basically, yes.
Cool. So then how do we get to Revelation? So then how do we get to Revelation, which definitely includes an actual real thinking God?
Well, that point in there is I don't believe that. I believe that half of the Revelations is all fucking make believe, all to manipulate mankind for the benefit of
this is doing nothing
mankind.
for me. I'm not interested as much in what you believe. I want to know what your claim is and how you can support the claim. So far, this has been like confetti in a hurricane, right? You've thrown out all of these different sort of non sequiturs and disconnected ideas and religions and claims and whatnot, and they're all flying in different directions. I'd like to make sure that the audience is not falling into a deep coma. So quickly, can you tell me what's your claim and how can you prove it?
All right, so Revelations 4:3.
I've got it open.
And
Revelations 4:3.
Speed of litigation, right?
Right.
You got to go a little faster.
He said,
Sean.
And he that sat was to look upon like a jasper and a sardine stone, and there was a rainbow round about that throne in sight like unto an emerald. What the fuck does that mean? And why is that what you brought up when we asked you what your claim was?
Jasper and Ruby. Jasper is orange and red, and Ruby is red. So orange hair, red MAGA.
Okay, so this is
bad.
exactly. So just to be clear, Sean, in 7 minutes, you have told us that you have a religion that you don't really have. You believe a bunch of stuff, but you don't really believe it. And that you have this book of Revelation, which half of which you don't believe anyway. And when we finally nail down the claim you're making, it's that some colors exist. And that means that it's the time that we're in today. As if there has never been any other time when those colors have been used by any political faction ever. This is exactly the same thing as when Christians talk about wars and rumors of wars being signs of the end times. It's always that. Every part of Revelation is always happening forever. That's why it sucks.
Kind of giving the clarity there.
We're good.
Yeah, I think we're good as well. Sean, it's been weird. If you want to try collecting your thoughts and calling us back sometime with what you actually think and why, maybe we'll try again sometime.
All right. Bye.
And lo, he opened the seventh seal, and there was an orange horse with a red hair, and hell followed with him. I think I missed that verse in the book of Revelation. I must go back and do refresher Bible studies on the apocalypse narrative as based in Scripture. What was I thinking?
It's super weird. It's super weird.
It's a tough balance because, you don't want to shut people down, but at the same time, you're like, at some point, there needs to be a connecting idea, and we need to make sure that we're being good stewards of the viewers and the listeners, because they're over there going, oh my God, I'm out. They're off getting coffee. They're playing with the dog. They're doing something to kill time till we're done because they have no idea what this person's talking about. So I'm always trying to balance. And I tend to err on the side of shorter. So don't let me short circuit you if I'm over here banging on the desk and you want to go further with it. But part of me is, if I feel a momentum, the death of momentum in a call, I'm normally like, thanks for calling. May the Lord be with you and see you. Kind of thing. So
heaven forbid the audience have to put up with 10 minutes of whatever that was after 42 minutes of us bitching about Donald Trump.
I guess maybe what is that pot calling the kettle black as I was monopolizing the microphone for the first hour?
No, you and I both were, if we're being honest. But no, I don't think that was going anywhere anyway. Okay. It was just super weird. I do want to take one other call while we're here, while we're in the mood of short phone calls, because I'm sure we'll take some long ones. But really, I just want to talk to this person really quick, if it's okay with you. Let's talk to Steve, pronouns he, him, calling in, who says that we should offer Palestinians refuge against genocide. That sounds awesome. Steve, you're on the line with Forrest and Seth. How you doing today?
Hello to my fave Oklahomans. So our way to Dallas went through Tulsa by Oral Roberts campus.
Steve.
I prayed to Jesus for joyfulness and Texas and one star. Double down on a bet without regret. At weddings at the bar.
Hey, Steve.
Hey, Steve. For me in the car.
Hey, Steve.
Hey, Steve. Dallas, Texas.
Hey, Steve.
Wagering on the Cotton Bowl.
Stevie Weavy.
We had not a lot of dough to go through the elbow.
Phoebe, banana fan of Phoebe. Hey, Steve. Holy shit, Steve. Oh, my glob, Steve. Do you hear yourself? I'm finally muted, Steve. Oh my God. So Steve from Nebraska is a long-time repeat caller. Steve from Nebraska calls all the fucking time. And I've asked Steve to stop calling me because Steve's calls and Steve's takes are fucking worthless. But just as much as I would love to do that for the entire show, I just want to see if I can ask Steve just a couple of quick questions. Steve, have you shut the fuck up yet?
Yo, yeah. I'm good, bro.
Okay, great. Hey, Steve, you call all the fucking time, and I've asked you to stop calling me, and you keep calling, and I haven't banned you because I don't like doing that, but just while we're here really quick, while I have you on the show, what's my last name?
I didn't think the mayor took my calls anymore.
Yeah, I generally don't. What's my last name, Steve?
The mayor don't take my calls anymore. Hint.
See, Yeah, so you have nothing here. Yeah, my last name is Valkai. That's my legal, actual last name on my driver's license, my passport, my social security card, and everything. So you dug up and found an old last name for me, which, by the way, you're mispronouncing anyway. Why do you think that's appropriate, Steve?
You asked.
I asked what my last name was just now because I have heard you use my wrong last name for no fucking reason on other calls with other hosts. I'm just curious to know why you think it's appropriate to call somebody by a name that isn't their legal name. Would you call somebody by their maiden name after they got married? That's just weird. Why would you do something like this? It's just very strange.
Well, what you got? Do you know a Ross Ward? Does that name ring a bell?
I'm just asking you a question. Why do you think that's appropriate to do to someone? Do you not think that that's just very odd and rude?
When you ran in the Oklahoma state legislature, it's public.
Yeah, no, I ran for office one time several years ago. Yes, but that was before my name was legally changed. So I'm curious to know why you think it's appropriate or polite in any way to call somebody by a name that isn't their actual legal name, or even if it was my legal name, if this is my stage name, why do you think it's appropriate? Why do you think that's not just a rude and very genuinely strange thing to do?
After it was mentioned in the super chat, so I didn't bring it up.
Oh, so it's just you just didn't. Once again, you have not done any thinking. Just somebody else put an idea in your head and you just ran with it. That makes sense. I have another question. Also, you say we should offer Palestinians refuge from genocide. I'm super into that. But also, I remember that while we were doing political shows before the election, you called in again, just as you always do, damn near every fucking week, while somebody told you, hey, you need to vote for Kamala Harris. And you say, well, I think I'm voting for third party. I just think I'm going to vote for the party. And every single call, you would say, all right, I guess, yeah, no, that makes sense. I guess I won't vote third party. And then you'd call back again and say, I think I'm voting third party again. Why do you think it's appropriate now, after you've been raked over the coals by every single host on this channel so many times, and now you're just saying, well, I think we need to do something for Palestine, after I know for sure that I and like at least a dozen other hosts have accused you specifically of not caring enough and sticking up for Palestine? Why do you think that's appropriate, Steve?
Well, don't blame me for this mess. I voted for Jill Stein, the anti-genocide.
Yeah, that is exactly why I'm blaming you a little bit for this, because Jill Stein, as was repeatedly explained to you, is a grifter who says whatever the fuck she thinks is going to get her money and donations and votes, and then disappears. Where is Jill Stein right now, Steve? What's Jill Stein up to? Who's Jill Stein fighting?
She's running the Green Party campaign
where?
The next election, presidential election.
What's Jill Stein doing? Where's Jill Stein at? What campaign
Florida,
events is Jill Stein hosting? Yeah, so she's fucking nowhere. She's back in her hole with your donation money again, Steve, which is what every fucking caller of host on this show told you was going to happen. And now we have Trump in office who's talking about ethnically cleansing Gaza, which is what we said which was going to happen. And he's talking about America moving in and taking over Gaza, which is what we said was going to happen. And now you're here whining and saying, we should do more for Palestinians. We fucking tried, Steve. Why didn't it get through to you when all of the hosts were talking about how you could help Palestine? Why is it now, when it's performative and easy for you to take a hard stance and say, we need to do more for Palestine? Why is it now that you're going to do something, but when it was time to go to the ballot box and actually do something, you didn't do it?
I voted for the anti-genocide campaign. You think things were going well?
You voted for the grifter. You voted for the grifter who, with a proven track record of saying whatever the fuck she had to say to make money. You're voting for the person who sits next to Vladimir Putin at fancy fundraising dinners. That's who you fucking voted for. The same person we all told you voted for. And so here you are now, Steve, after you called every single one of our shows and said some dumb shit about the election, and then you called every fucking show to talk about some dumb shit about the flood, after you called every fucking show to talk about dumb shit about aliens, every fucking show to talk about dumb shit about simulations, every fucking show to talk about dumb shit about octopuses, and now you can't even get my fucking name right, and you're just being aggressively rude and shitty and weird to try to get more attention. I don't understand why you think that any host on this show should ever fucking take you seriously. That's my question for you, Steve. Why should we continue to give you airtime when you're going to be rude and disrespectful to me, and also just waste everybody's fucking time by asking the same kind of dumbass questions to every single single host that you can get on with over and over and over, and then flip-flop your positions so that you can continue asking more dumbass questions. So we have to be saying the same dumb shit for you over and over. Why should we continue to take you seriously, Steve?
Because I have provided evidence for my claims.
No, you fucking haven't. Every time we talk to you, your evidence is you read something online once. You saw a random article once. Some of the first times you and I spoke, Steve, I had to explain to you why it wasn't important that you found a random paper that talked about aliens, even though 13 scientists were on the paper. It didn't mean shit. It was just something you read on some bullshit backwater blog, and you believed it to be true. And at this point, I don't think you believe any of this shit. I think you're fucking bored and lonely, and you call into these shows to get some fucking attention, Steve, and it pisses me off. It's a massive waste of time, and it makes theists look bad. We have theists who are genuine and serious that call in and really pour their heart out and have some serious conversations with us. And then we have fucking you, who can't even get my name right because, once again, you read some shit on the internet. It's embarrassing, and it's a waste of everybody's fucking time. So, Steve, one more time, what's my last name?
Mr. Valkai, I never said...
Thank you very much, Steve. Goodbye. With that, we're now going to move on to some serious callers. We've got, let's talk to, I think Mallard, pronoun she, her, calling in from London. Sounds pretty interesting. Let's talk to Mallard, who wants to know if atheists can believe in ghosts. Mallard, I promise I'll be nicer to you. Mallard is just burping into the phone. We're going to just drop Mallard. Let's talk to Adam, pronouns he, him, calling in from Canada. Or maybe California, who knows, who wants to talk about nihilistic pantheism. Adam, you're on the line with Forrest and Seth. How are you doing today?
Oh,
Adam,
my bad. I muted. No, my bad. I muted because of the burping caller.
Can you hear me?
Now you can. You're
yes,
good.
There you go.
Hey, so it's some unfun times right now. Sounds like you're feeling it as well. I am calling from California, not Canada, and I'm sure you've heard the news about what's going on with our state. So it's literal hellfire. But let's get on to my claims here. So I've a recent listener. I'm sure you've been introduced to the concept of pantheism before, but what we're looking at with pantheism is not to redefine the universe as God, but rather we seek to redefine God as the universe. Our evidence for this is that the universe passes the 3 omni test better than most established religious deities do. It's also not stifled by the impediments of the brain in the jar, nor the simulation, as the universe would then extend to whatever the true reality is. And we supplement that with the idea of nihilism, which has some really bad branding, I'll admit, but we take nihilism from Nietzsche, who defined it as specifically being the antagonistic force to the Übermensch. And Nietzsche was right that the world would shift from pure monarchical theocracy towards an authoritarian Übermensch, as we're seeing happening in our country, but that the thing he was wrong about was that it is fucking terrible. It is catastrophic. It is provably one of the worst things that is happening in several countries. And so we support nihilism as a strict opposition to that force. We believe in God, but we do not think that God gives a shit about us. We are on our own, and as we have seen throughout biology, there's not a single species that has survived by massacring its own kind, and therefore egalitarianism and equality is something that must be pressed for at all times, and the Übermensch resisted.
I mean, sure, but like this sounds to me like I guess my issue is that you're calling in as a theist, and I don't know, based on what you just said, I don't know, based on the very beginning, you said that we used to define the processes of the universe as God, and now we are redefining God as the processes of the universe. So I don't understand. You're calling in to say you're a theist. Do you believe, yes or no, in an actual thinking, intelligent agent with powers that controls the universe or created the universe or anything like that? Or are you just using the word theist to say you believe in like Spinoza's God?
I'm not familiar with Spinoza's God, but emphatically, I believe that the universe has a will, and its will is undeniable. There is objective morality in the world that the laws set down by God cannot be broken. These are the laws of physics, the interactions and the forces that we see, and anything that is within God's will has happened exactly according to God's will and cannot happen any other ways. And anything else from there, because we as human beings are not omniscient, we have subjective morality, and subjectively, as part of our nihilism, we strongly feel that egalitarianism is the best chance that our species has to move forward in progress.
Hey, can I jump in quickly, Adam?
Yeah, please.
Please.
So the universe has a will. God is the universe, and that God has a will. Did I hear that? Agency? Consciousness?
That is correct.
Plan?
And it
nothing
cannot
has
be
happened,
defied.
and nothing has happened outside of the reasoning or plan of that God, right? Anything and everything that has happened has been foretold and predestined by that deity, part of a master blueprint. Am I hearing that?
As part of strict material determinism, from the moment that I'm a bang cruncher, but that's not actually part of the theology. I just think it's cleaner. But yes, from the moment of our universe expanding from the Big Bang, the first time that those quantum particles collapsed from their waveform, everything that has happened, including this conversation, has been part of the way that this timeline has proceeded.
Okay, all right. Is that purposeful? Yeah. Was that intended? Was the universe wanting this to take place for you and I to encounter each other here on the broadcast?
I would say that as basically the answer is the universe does not care. The material.
Hang on. I'm trying to keep us on track, Adam. So if the universe does not care, then why would everything be happening for a reason that the universe put in place? To me, I'm not connecting those dots. If the universe is totally disconnected and there's no reason to engage or plan or do any of those types of things, if the universe doesn't care, then why bother?
Because that is the way it does. This is the ineffable will of God. We just know that it does exist because existence exists. And this is precisely its will. This is why bad things happen to good people.
Okay.
The issue I'm having is it sounds like you're conflating like determinism through physics of saying like we know the physical and chemical process that make things happen, and therefore this. And so like the way that we might in science say like these atoms want to bond because they're in this particular charge, they have this particular, the valence electrons are of this particular configuration and they're in this particular distance, and they're going to want to connect. And you're taking that metaphorical word want and making it a literal word want and saying, no, this is actually some kind of will. That's what it's sounding like to me. Am I right or wrong?
We are a result, or we are an intended destination instead of just kind of where we ended up. Is that what you're saying?
Right.
Yes. Okay. It cannot be any other way. There's no way to change the past.
Right, but what I don't understand is I get that. And like I can have an argument about like scientific determinism. Like that's fine. What it sounds like to me is that you were applying intentionality in place of physics. instead of just saying like, hey, this is the most likely, like probabilistically likely thing to happen, and therefore it does, you're saying this is actually the desire of the universe. And I'm just trying to make sure that I'm not taking what you're saying as a metaphor literally, or are you taking it literally? Like, I'm going to ask again, like, do you actually think that the universe or whatever actually has a mind and desires and will, or is that just a word you're using metaphorically to say like the end result of the laws of physics, chemistry, etc.?
Yeah, I think that those are exactly the same thing. That is my strongly held belief.
Well, then we have a major issue then. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the
absolutely.
Yeah, so the major issue I have there is that if you are prescribing, like, if I drop something and I know it's going to drop at 9.86 meters per second squared or whatever it is, it's been a long time so I had to think about it. Like, I can just say that is a fact of the universe. It is without morality. It is without anything. It is just a very objective, very cold fact. If you are actually implying a literal, serious will, then now we are actually talking about whether or not this thing is good. And now we are back to the exact kind of conversation that we would have, as different as the vocabulary is. It is the exact conversation as I would have with a fundamentalist Christian who would say that the God of the Bible controls all things, counts all the hairs on your head, not a single sparrow falls from the sky without him knowing, like every single bit of every single action that ever takes place ever is within his will. And then to repeat what you said, that's why bad things happen to good people and blah, blah, blah. And now I can apply morality and rationality to this and say, okay, well then the universe as a whole is evil, and that's wild. That's a wild thing to think about.
Yes. Excellent. Perfect. Yes, Forrest, you have famously said that if you were not an atheist, you would be an anti-theist, and that is 100% compatible with this worldview. We have no issue with you hating the universe, being apathetic towards it. We find that the universe does not give a shit about us, and so, in turn, we must make our own meaning.
Hang on, hold on. Are you saying that me admitting that there is no evidence that the universe cares at all about it, that if I realize and acknowledge that the universe is totally indifferent, that's somehow the same as hating the universe? Is that what you just said?
No. Either is acceptable. If you want to hate our conception of God, say that it is evil and cruel and punitive and unfair, totally cool. If you want to say that you don't care about it, that you want to just prescribe it clinically, totally cool. We're not devotees. We don't worship. We don't have mass. We have no use for prayer.
I don't really know what the point is. I feel like we're drifting.
Yeah,
it falls back. Can you put a punctuation mark on it for me?
This is designed as a tool, maybe even a weapon. That, again, our goal here is not to convert those who don't believe into believers. Our goal is to fight back against the theocratic autocrats who are trying to kill all of us.
Shit, dude.
So if you do not want to be a part of this, if you don't want to worship it, that is fine. What I want to offer to you today is to use me as a rhetorical tool, that if you are in a situation where you're going to call with a theocratic autocrat, that you can refer them to this thinking of nihilistic pantheism, and you can say that you don't believe it, but that there are those that are out there that believe it, and it is a better worldview than theirs.
We would have done that anyway, because I compare religions all the time in order to express how all of them are ridiculous. I'm more interested in your religious belief that you're espousing right now and why I think it's ridiculous. Let me ask you a question, Adam. How would you tell the difference between a purely mechanistic and like unintelligent universe, which has no conscience, has no consciousness, has no willpower, nothing, It is just purely driven by the laws of physics and chemistry as they are, and it comes to these conclusions, and these not conclusions, pardon me. Well, actually, yeah, conclusions, but just not rhetorical conclusions. But it comes to these ends, and it produces these same things. How would you tell the difference between a purely mechanistic, unintelligent universe driven by these same laws of nature and one that is actually intelligent and thinking and causal the way that you're proposing?
If you could break those laws, if it was truly
how does that make sense?
If it was truly willless, if it was truly did not have a consciousness, if these laws of physics and of nature that has set down are truly arbitrary, you could break them.
That doesn't make any sense. To say that we could break a law of physics unless the law of physics doesn't want to be broken is meaningless to me. Explain how that rationality works.
Well, that if this law has been set out as part of this variation of the universe, then it exists in our universe for some purpose. What that is, it's not up to me to be able to find out. But in string theory, that 10th dimension is other universes that have different laws of physics. So applying that, if there are different laws of physics that can be laid out, there are different variations of those laws, and they would be... Go ahead.
I'm not a string theorist by any means, but I do know enough about the laws of physics and chemistry and things to understand that they rely on each other. They go back and forth towards each other. Like, you can use one to kind of predict. So, like, for example, the reason why something with mass cannot move at or above the speed of light is because E equals mc squared, because there is an energy and mass connection, a relationship. And so in order to get something to move faster than the speed of light, it would require infinite energy and it would have infinite mass to do so. And that mathematically makes no sense. I don't need then to say, okay, this is something that is willful. I understand conservation of mass. I understand conservation of momentum. I understand how energy works. I understand how mathematics works. I understand how infinity works. I can now draw logical conclusions, not conclusions based on the perceived desire of some all-encompassing being to understand the relationship between space and time and movement. So again, telling me that I would have to be able to move faster than the speed of light in order to prove that the speed of light is not an intelligent thing it doesn't make any sense to me. And if you really want to dig it out, we have physicists that do this show. I'd be equipped to talk to you about biology on this way and show you how it absolutely makes zero sense to say I should be able to break Allen's rule, Bergman's rule, Williston's rule, whatever, in order to prove that somehow biology is mechanistic. That just doesn't make any sense to me.
Okay. Well, I suppose then that, this is, again, if it's something that you find you don't have any use for, that's perfectly fine. I wanted to come on just to share with you. Okay.
Right, but I would people share with us stuff all the time. I'm interested to know why you know this, and I am curious. This is going to sound condescending. I really don't mean it that way. I just genuinely want to know, just as a background to this, do you have any formal training in physics at all?
No, not even a little bit.
Okay, so do you think...
They're all just concepts that have been taken from people smarter than me.
Would you... I encourage you then to call in when Dr. Aaron Adair or Dr. Blitz are on, because they are PhD physicists that can talk about this way better than I can. Like I said, I can talk about the biology of it, but you're not going to like it. And so, if you want to talk to people about this, I encourage you to talk to an actual physicist, but I would want you to actually present why you believe this, not just trying to hand out pamphlets to our audience about your church. That doesn't do anything for us.
Okay. Then that's, I don't really have anything on the biological side. It's pretty much the same concept that life has happened this way, and a firm believer in abiogenesis and evolution, and I have zero issue with the fossil record. I do not think that man was formed from clay.
And those things follow logical principles, not supernatural ones. And we don't need to be able to violate evolution in order to prove that evolution doesn't have a guiding force. It makes more sense if we can't do that.
Well, yes, I would say that we can't do those because those laws are immutable. But
right. It makes more sense to say that it's mechanistic because those laws are immutable. If those laws were driven by a guiding force, especially the kind that you're describing, then that force would be capricious and it would be able to be changed. So it would make more sense to say we violated the laws of physics, therefore we know that they are not nihilistic and mechanistic, and it is in fact some guy named the universe.
Well, the it pronoun would probably be better than ascribing it a male trait. It is existence.
Yeah, I use guy gender neutrally, but that's beside the point. The point is, Adam, I encourage you to talk to an actual physicist about this and present why you believe this, not just what you believe.
Well, finish on this and then feel free to let me go. Is you had said that you feel it's more useful to be able to describe it mechanistically or accurately. My pitch is that it may be more compelling to the type of audience member who's trying to
go on. I didn't mean that to be that loud. I'm making sounds. That was very rude. I didn't mean that to be as loud as it was. I'm just fucking with this marker. Please go on.
It's quite it's just surprising as all. So I mean it just to be compelling to the type of audience member who might not otherwise be compelled by logic. The type of person who trusts a web page marked as misinformation because it's misinformation. And that may be, I don't know, of some use to someone at some point down the line. And if not, it's not like I'm going to go to hell for it.
Well, that's absolutely in contrast to the mission and morals of the hosts of this show, to just replace one silly religion with another that is more benign to our purposes. We're in the business of like advocating for skepticism and truth, and it wouldn't matter. It wouldn't be useful to us at all to say, well, at least they don't believe this thing anymore. Now they believe this other thing that we don't agree with. That really wouldn't work for us at all. So with that, Adam, we're going to move on.
Understand.
Yeah, thank you for calling in.
All right, not a problem.
We've got, let's just refresh this for a second and see. How are you holding up? This is our job.
That stuff's exhausting. I just think
a lot.
I am not connecting at all to the argument being made. I don't know if the viewers are. I don't feel any momentum, and then he spins off into somewhere else, and I'm just like, I'm kind of done. Mm-hmm. Except for the fact that he does make me think of that Life of Brian song. The universe, is it Life of Brian or Meaning of Life? The universe is expanding and expanding and expanding. I do enjoy that. I do appreciate it. But thanks for calling.
Forrest Valkai sounds like a Star Wars monster. The fucking
Valkai sounds like something you would need penicillin for.
It's a bad time. It's a bad time. You don't want it. It doesn't wash off.
You don't want that in your colonoscopy. I'm just
nobody tells Steve. He'll start calling me that.
Don't want that. You don't want
in your colonoscopy. So let's talk to oh man, we got I don't know what this is, totally, but we're gonna
spit on the collar, dude. You spit on the collar. You just
what are you talking? Oh, when I was making fart sounds with my marker, I'm over here just pooting into it.
I didn't know what it was. I was like, yes, Lord, I'll build an ark.
I'm just over here being stupid, and that was very rude, and I do apologize. But like, I didn't mean for it to be that loud. It was so stupid.
Forrest Valkai. Jesus.
Yeah. It's just, oh man, somebody's got to fire me from this fucking show. Let's talk. I don't know what this means. We've got Thapello. I don't know if I'm saying this name right, so please tell me if this is actually your name. Pronouns he and them, calling in from South Africa, who is a theist who says that sci-fi might explain God. This could go a couple of ways. I don't know. Hi, you're on the line with Forrest and Seth. Please tell me if I'm pronouncing your name right, because I don't want to be a jerk and say your name wrong.
Oh, yeah, it's Tape. Tape from South Africa. It literally means a prayer. And I'm not making this up. It's my actual name.
That's fine. I just want to make sure I'm saying your name properly and I'm not calling you something weird.
Yeah. But you can call me Prayer. It's cool. I won't mind. Okay.
You want a speakerphone? Is there a way we can make this a little more clear? I'm having a hard time understanding you.
Yeah. I think I might have when I confused myself there with the question every hour. So maybe when I explain, I might be able to clarify.
Classify what?
So desperate
Can you hear
for
me?
a question.
Yeah.
So desperate.
I'm sorry. Can you explain like what is it that you believe in and why do you believe in it? That's what we're really interested in.
Oh, okay. So guys, English is my first additional language, so I might struggle a bit. Okay, so what I believe in is I grew up Catholic, super religious, and then I started to listen more to what the preacher was saying, and I saw that people were not actually practicing this. And I started pulling myself away from the church. So I can say I believe, but it's what I believe in is not of any religion or yes.
Okay.
That's what I can say.
Do you believe in a God?
Yes, a form of a God.
Okay. Just to help us understand, like you said you got out of Catholicism, do you believe in the God of the Bible in any way, or is this a different thing for you?
So, yeah, thank you for that question. So, I don't know if I can, give you maybe a scenario or a sort of what I think is happening. More of like let me say a conspiracy, my own conspiracy theory. Can I do that?
I mean, sure, yeah. That's kind of what I'm looking for. Is just like, what God do you actually believe in? Because there's 40,000 denominations of Christianity alone. There's tens of thousands of other religions out there. Everybody's got their own thing going on. So I'm curious to know, like, what do you actually believe in, and how does it relate to sci-fi?
Yes, like what I believe in. Like I want to tell you guys my conspiracy theory. That's what I'm saying. I'll just lay it out.
I prefer something that you had like a reason for, because conspiracy, maybe there's a language barrier, but up here, conspiracy theory means just like some wild shit you dreamed up, you know? Is this something that you have a reason to believe in?
Yes. I'm basing it on Genesis.
Okay, so we're back to the Bible.
Yes, unfortunately.
All right, so tell me what you believe.
All right. Yes, I'm sorry about the question there.
Jesus Christ. Just tell us what you think. Just tell us.
I'm sorry.
Tell us what your point is. It's not a language barrier thing. I don't need the caveats. Just make your point. I'm excited to hear what you have to say. Go for it.
I'm sorry, man. I'm starstruck over here. Okay. My conspiracy is, in Genesis, God made the world and whatnot, and he created the first humans, Adam and he saw that Adam was lonely and whatnot, and he created Eve for him. And then there was a snake, and they ate the apple, and he kicked them out of the garden. Just that part. I just want to use that part, only that part. So my theory is God makes this. Okay, let me use guinea pigs as an example. You take these guinea pigs, you make like a world for them, or like an area where they're gonna live. Outside of you don't interact with them in any way. Maybe you interact with the first two of them. Like you give them what they need and all that. But what you really need is for those two guinea pigs to reproduce. Well, that's what you need. And like if you're using like guinea pigs that have just born recently, they don't know anything, they don't have any parent figure or anything, I'm not sure they're gonna learn to reproduce.
So here's where we are, man. Like I'm sorry to interrupt you, but like we've been going for a little while now, and you said that you believe in the beginning of the book of Genesis, that God made Adam and Eve in a garden, and there was a snake and all that stuff, and then they got kicked out of the garden. You said you believe in that, right?
Yes.
Yes, and now you're talking about guinea pigs, which I'm assuming is to say that we had to reproduce and fill the world and make a big enough population for some reason.
Yes. And
okay, let's just start. Let's just start with the thing with the beginning here. If this God really did things that the Bible says in the Garden of Eden, if the Garden of Eden story is true, then this God is either stupid or evil. So why do you believe in it?
How is he stupid or evil?
Because this God, supposedly, according to the Bible, knows everything, past, present, and future. He knows what's going to happen before it happens. He is the wisest, most intelligent being in the universe. And this God put two people who didn't know right from wrong in a garden and put the most important temptation in the world directly in front of them and made a snake to tell them to take the temptation and left them unattended with the snake. That's an insane stupidity. If God didn't want us to eat from this tree, he could have not made the tree in the first place. If he was going to make the tree, he could have put it somewhere else. If he was going to put it there, he could have told the people not to touch the tree in a way that actually mattered, or he could have put some sort of a barrier around the tree. Or if he wasn't going to do that, he could have not made a snake that talks to these people and tells them about. And if he was going to make the snake, he could have supervised his children so they didn't listen to the snake. Like, every level of this is failure on God's part. If God is truly powerful and truly intelligent, he has failed over and over and over and over and over again. And most importantly, after Adam and Eve eat the apple, he's surprised in the story. He's shocked that they would do such a thing, despite the fact that he supposedly already knows everything. So this God is either stupid because he did a bunch of things that any idiot should know what the result of that story is going to be, or he's evil because he punished people for doing something that they didn't know was wrong. Literally, they hadn't eaten from the fruit of the knowledge of good and evil yet. They didn't know what wrong was, and he's punishing them for things that they could not comprehend. That is evil.
Okay. Maybe you're not understanding me here, or I have not really clarified my point. Yes. Not in the literal, like, Bible sense, bruh. That's not how I mean it. What I mean is, imagine this, Forrest. You yourself, you maybe clone or make a human out of a hair strand or something. You put them on an island. You don't make them interact with any of our society. You put them on an island, and then you teach them how. What I think eating the apple means. I think, I'm sorry if I offend any Christians, but I think it means sex. You teach them God by saying, don't eat the apple from the tree. Come on. He's planting the idea in their mind. That's obvious. So you teach them how to reproduce. After they reproduce, that's all you needed. They're gonna reproduce. Now they know how to do it. He kicked them out of the Garden of Eden. I think I mean, like, he already did his thing, so what's the use of communicating with them? That's what I think of it. Happy, if you look at it, we already have everything we need on this end. It's almost as if, like, everything was
What's the point?
Here.
What's you've said several times that God needs us to have sex and reproduce. What's the point? What does God need from what does an all-powerful being need more silly apes for?
That's the thing. We can never understand God's point.
Well, then you shouldn't believe in it. If it's something that you, by definition, can't understand. Sorry, go ahead, Seth.
I'm sorry. We just put the viewers through all of that so we could get to the destination that no one can possibly understand the mind of God. Is that what we just did to people?
Like, it sucks. Like, this is a terrible way to believe in something.
Yes. What I'm saying is, we should stop trying to understand God.
You think we should stop?
Be interested in science is one of them. Like, trying to understand a being who knows everything and all things is not it. And kneeling and thanking God.
Here's the thing, dude.
I don't think that's how to please God.
I'm kind of over it because, like, you this whole time just to say we can't know something, then you shouldn't believe in it. If you don't know it and you don't understand it, you shouldn't believe in it. You should believe in things you have evidence for. And not knowing something isn't evidence for something existing. So, like, if this God is real, we can look around us and say that he is either stupid or evil. And if you want to say that actually there's some secret reason that he does whatever things that he's doing, those reasons aren't good enough for me. There is no reason that is good enough for me to allow the kind of world that we live in. So I'm just, like, not into this concept of a God. And more importantly, if your honest argument is that we just don't know, then you shouldn't be sitting here espousing a belief in something, especially not something so hideous. So we're going to move on. But I appreciate you calling in and waiting for as long as you did. Thank you for calling. But, like, this God sounds awful to me. I'm not particularly interested in it. Bye. Just that whole.
I just want you to start screaming. We've got to do something to pick things up. Can you just start screaming, Steve again? Into the microphone again, because that was a highlight tonight for me. Apparently, it was a highlight for everybody in the chat. Let me say it this way: for those of you on the switchboard, when you call a show like this, and I'm not talking about nerves, which I totally understand and I empathize with, and we'll guide you
or
through
a language barrier.
That's fine. Language barrier. That's totally understandable. Right. But when you call a show with thousands of people watching and listening, you are signing a social contract. What you are saying is, I am going to bring something that will interest either the hosts or the viewers and listeners. I am going to merit the time that we are taking. I am not going to waste the time or take so long getting to the point that people literally want to hurl themselves off of the top of a tall building. So when you call, I don't mind the pleasantries, but I sure would like to see us get to the point more quickly. And if the point's too esoteric or disconnected, I think we're probably just going to have to say adios, farewell, sayonara, God be with you, and move on to the next call. Social contract. Hashtag that sucker. Make a note of it before you dial in.
Especially if your point is this is something beyond understanding. You know what I mean? Like, if that's part of the point, if you're a Christian calling in saying some part of the point is like, well, God's ways are above our ways, well, fine. If the entire argument is, I believe in God because we don't know what God is and we can't know what God, I can't do that.
And it's such a catch-all, and it's such a cheat, right? Well, why bother? And this is rooted actually in scripture, but I know a lot of high control cults and cultures have this sort of thing, right? Trust not in your own understanding. Who could know the mind of God? The Lord works in mysterious ways. By the way, that same Bible says that God is not the author of confusion, which is a weird clash of ideas. But to go through all of that and essentially say, our pithy insect brains could never figure it out was one of the greatest anticlimaxes since the final season of Game of Thrones. All I'm asking is that you do better when you call, okay? That's just
the first time you and I ever sat down together. We're talking about the final season of Game of Thrones and
not
how
that
many
I'm
balls.
Still mad about it. No, not that I still feel betrayed by the last 5 episodes of Game of Thrones, and it keeps me up
years
at night.
And years.
No.
It is hot trash. It is frustrating hot trash. And it makes, sometimes Amber and I are like, yo, like we should just have a binge week where we just watch all of Game of Thrones again and have a lot of fun. Just stock up on fruit gushers and just watch Game of Thrones. And we're like, hell yeah. And then we remember that we're going to have to watch the fucking ending. And we're like, well, maybe we shouldn't. They have, not only did they ruin it at the one time, they ruined the replay value. They've lost so much money on that.
When you invested that much time and energy and so much of your heart into the characters, and they all act against character in such bizarre, illogical, nonsensical ways that it has betrayed the years-long investment that you have made. I can now not go back and watch the repeats. And it's not that it still bothers me. It's not that I'm still affected by it, but it just popped into my head. Game of Thrones, betrayal. No,
we should open. The lines are closed. We've got 4 people waiting on the line right now, and like Arden already cruelly closed the lines, but I think we should open them again specifically for if there's a theist, a transphobe, or somebody who has problems with pronouns, or anybody who wants to defend the ending of Game of Thrones. If anybody wants to call in and tell us why it was, we'll take that call. You know what I'm saying?
Or somebody named Steve. If you're Steve, please call.
Because or some fucker named Steve. And literally, that's it. Those are the only calls we're taking. Is theists, anybody who wants to talk shit about pronouns. If you liked the ending of Game of Thrones, or anybody named Steve for any reason at all, we'll take the call. Oh man. Let's talk to, I feel bad for the one atheist caller on the line who's been on the hold for an hour and a half and will remain on hold because we prioritize theist calls. Let's talk to Everick. I believe we talked to Everick recently, pronoun she, her, who is a theist who says, I can't find a reason not to believe in God. Someone convinced me to believe. That's what's written in the call screen. I don't know what the second sentence means, but let's get into it. Everick, you're on the line with Forrest and Seth. How you doing today?
Good. You were right. Yeah, we had talked before.
Right on. So you say you can't find a reason not to believe in a God. I'm happy to provide you one.
Yeah, if you have a reason, that would be great. Do you want me to explain what the call screen meant, or do you want me?
Yeah, no, you're welcome to. I would say the reason not to believe in a God is because there is no good reason to believe in a God. That's the reason why I don't believe in all sorts of things. But if you have a different situation going on, please let us know.
Yeah. So I had mentioned to one of my friends that I had one of my Mormon friends that I had been sort of been pretty sure I was becoming unreligious. They wanted to talk to me about it, and so we did, and they ended up saying, and I have this conversation here, but they said that for me to assume that all the miracles aren't miracles, I have no way to assume that. So I think I might be able to find the exact, but basically, yeah, they said you either need to make a metaphysical assumption we can't know, or that something happened that we have no proof for. sounds like a similar assumption to me. And so they were saying that any assumption I make about something not being a religion, like Joseph Smith translating the Book of Mormon really fast, is like as valid as an assumption that it was a miracle. And I can't refute that because I don't have any way to make an assumption about events I wasn't there for.
I'm sorry, I don't think I understood what you just said, so I want to repeat it back what I think I heard, and you can tell me if I'm misunderstanding. It sounded like you said like any interpretation you make is as good as any other, and therefore you just might as well assume. Like, please reiterate what you're saying, because I'm sure that I misunderstood you.
Yeah, I didn't explain myself very well. Sorry. Basically, I can't, like, God has an unfalsifiable claim. I can't disprove that. I can't prove anything, like, definitively wasn't a miracle, any of the things that happened in the past. However, all of the evidence that we have, like, it's bad evidence. It's historical records from witnesses a while ago, and, like, personal experiences. Isn't that evidence better than nothing? Like,
okay. Yeah,
May I participate?
Please.
I have thoughts.
Yeah.
I'm interested in the claim God is unfalsifiable. Define God for me, like a specific God with a proper name.
Yeah.
Which one?
I think Yahweh. I'm Mormon. God is in like creator of the universe.
Okay, so you belong to the Mormon faith.
Yes.
Okay.
Our condolences.
So I disagree with your premise that a God is unfalsifiable. Now, I mean, if you want to speak in the larger macro sense that, well, is there something out there somewhere at the outer membrane of the universe beyond our field of vision? That's a more abstract conversation about what is likely a deistic God or a first cause, whatever. That's not what I'm talking about. In your context, we are speaking about a God with a proper name who has agency, a personality, and a mission, blueprint, goals, and instructions. Okay. But if we reverse engineer the Mormon faith, and we can do this with Christianity and Islam, etc., we can actually dismantle it and see that it has man-made roots, human-made roots. We actually are. In fact, Mormonism's a much better example even than Christianity, which is really easy because Mormonism is so much more recent. And we can go back and get into the biography of Joseph Smith and how he was a con man and how he had come up with all of these claims and that there was no evidence for the claims and how the Mormon churches had to reverse and revise and change and alter based on what was or wasn't politically or culturally popular or advantageous at the time. We can talk about all of these things in the context of, does it make sense? Is there any evidence to support it? And is there any evidence that refutes it? And Mormonism simply does not pass that test. So I just disagree with the idea that your God, this Mormon God rather, is unfalsifiable. Because if we can discredit and then discard the Joseph Smith story and all that stuff about Brigham Young, et cetera, we know the Book of Mormon, et cetera, is human made. And all of those things are demonstrated, then we can falsify that deity and say, well, there's no reason to believe in that and every reason to believe it was made by a con. Would that be fair?
Yeah, that would, yeah, I guess I very misspoke then when I said it was unfalsifiable. Sorry.
Totally fine. Well, I'm not coming after you for that. I think it's important that you and I are using the same terminology. And when you talk about miracles, that I understand that you don't know what would be a miracle or what would just be a simple process of the world. How you couldn't discount the fact that if someone went to the hospital with cancer and they got better, that it was a miracle and not just the chemo. Is that what I'm hearing? Like we can't discount that there was a supernatural intervention at some time?
Yeah, that's part of it.
Okay, help me out. What's the rest?
So kind of like you answered before, where if you could prove that like Joseph Smith just like made up the Book of Mormon and everything that would disprove it. As I brought that up to my friend, and they were, and they had been able to like counter everything I said about it being fake. They said it took him like 3 months to dictate the entire book, which, given its length, is, they had said, like, all the different people there, the like witnesses who corroborated that he got it from divine inspiration, though being excommunicated, were still like proponents and acknowledging the book's like history and stuff.
Okay, let me jump in.
I couldn't.
Let me jump in. All right. So we're still talking about allegations, anecdotes, stories told by third parties, many of whom have a vested interest in making all of this sound legitimate, right? We don't have documentation that this happened. And to say that he couldn't have written the book in 3 months is pretty, I mean, that's a stretch, because you damn Skippy, he could have written the book in 3 months. And then you've got the angels, Mormon and Moroni, and you've got the golden plates, and you got the glasses with the seer stones and the magic hat, and all of these details to that story about the origins of the book, the foundational book of the Mormon faith, give us a really good reason to pause and say, we don't think this sounds credible. And then given the fact that Joseph Smith was essentially being chased from town to town because he was stealing from people and conning them out of their money, and that is a matter of historical record, why would we hold to a religion that was created by a con? These are some of the questions I would encourage you to explore as you get further into the Mormon faith.
Yeah, I have a totally different, just quick question that's very similar. So one of the things that like we do in science is we will establish a model and then try to hold that model up to reality to see if it makes any sense. And so, like, for example, like if I were to come up with some new idea about how evolution works, I would develop this model that actually, there's some, bugs can just become fleshier and just lose their exoskeletons overnight and just become these things with skin and like whatever the hell thing. I would then hold that model up to reality and say, okay, this doesn't actually look like what reality looks like. Therefore, it doesn't make any sense. And so this model is worthless to me. Meanwhile, if I develop a model of, say, for example, I mentioned earlier on another call, like Bergman's rules and Allen's rules, that like different animals that evolve in colder or hotter environments are going to have different body shapes that are, kind of predicted by the environment. If they're in a colder environment, they're going to be really big with like a lot of body volume. And if they're in a warmer environment, they're going to have really long, thin limbs. And there's, thermodynamic reasons that make sense. I can then hold that model up to reality and say, okay, this model matches what I see in reality, therefore it works. So when we talk about Mormonism, I encourage you to do the same thing. Take the story of Joseph Smith, dictating the Book of Mormon from the tablets and all these things, the way that it supposedly happened, and hold it up to reality. Does it make sense the way that it's told? Or, because I remember he transcribed the tablets by looking in a hat with the rock and he dictated the things, and then somebody hid the papers and was like, okay, well, if this is real, he can do it again. And Joseph Smith said, well, now God's mad because you did this, so I'm going to do it, and it's going to be the same message, but slightly different. Right? Am I getting that story right?
I don't think so. Unless you're talking about something I'm unaware of.
This is the way that I learned it. Maybe I'm mistaken, but the story was that he transcribed the gold tablets or whatever using the seeing stone, and then somebody hid the manuscripts, and he had to transcribe them again, but it was a slightly different message this time. Is that not the true story?
He transcribed some of them. Assuming we're talking about the same thing, he transcribed some of them. The transcription got taken away, like you said. And then when asked to transcribe the rest of them, he received revelation through God that he shouldn't do that because they would alter what he had and like frame him to be a fraud. Like, hey, what you did doesn't match up because they altered it. So he just transcribed the rest of it then and didn't transcribe that first part.
Oh, okay. Well, then we'll stick with that description. So he transcribed some of them, but then before he finished transcribing them from the tablets, he was given revelation and told to do it a different way. So let's compare these models. You hold the model up of he had these magic tablets and a magic rock to look through, and he did it the way he was supposed to do it for a minute, but then he got a magic message from God, and so he changed his path and he changed his in order to avoid looking like a con man, and so he did it this new way. Does that model fit reality, or does the model of he made the shit up and at a certain point he changed his mind about some stuff and he knew people were doubting him, and so he said, God told me to do something completely different now in order for you to know that I'm super duper serious? Does that model fit better with the story that you're telling me? Which model fits reality more closely?
The one where you just made everything up.
Yeah. And you can even do this recursively. You can go backwards. If he made it up, what would you expect the story to sound like and the Book of Mormon to look like? Versus if it was actual divine revelation, what would you expect the story to sound like and the Book of Mormon to look like? I would think that if it was divine revelation, I would expect the story to be pretty cut and dry, and for the Book of Mormon to actually be like a solid unifying thing that is clear. It's not just a product of its time. It's predictive, and it tells a lot of really good stories, and it makes sense to what we find anthropologically, like and in the fossil record. Like all of these things line up, and it actually tells us something new that we can really use as reliable. If it was actually him fucking around and pulling a con job, then I would expect the story to be disjointed and have a lot of changes, sudden changes that are excused away by divine revelation. And I would expect the Book of Mormon to be very much a product of its time and have some horrible racist messaging. And it wouldn't make any sense to the anthropological, archaeological, or fossil records. It wouldn't make any sense based on modern science. It wouldn't tell us anything new. It would be a massive hindrance on progress. That's what I would expect. So now, based on that, what do you think, which model do you think makes more sense?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because product of it. Yeah.
Rick, so also I think there are entire industries of apologetics that target people like you in order to make the nonsensical sound sensible, supposedly. And they use lofty language, and they invoke faith, and they say, look at all the witnesses, or look at how many people have believed over this century. I'm trying to think. Mormonism is what, 1800s?
Something like that.
There are a number of different defense mechanisms that these religions, high control religions especially, have put up and developed and even mastered in order to discount people like you and me who challenge it. But there are also a lot of ex-Mormons out there who have left the faith and blown the whistle, and they run ex-Mormon forums. They've written ex-Mormon books. They have been, right in the core of the religion. They've seen it. They've done it. They know it. They learned the verses. They took the missions trips. They did all of that stuff. But now on the other side of the looking glass, they're blowing the whistle, and they are describing and explaining why they know the religion is not just false, but damaging. And I think navigating some of those ex-Mormon resources might be good for you, because it sounds like you're still on the journey. You're still kind of sponging things up and assessing for yourself. But what part of that journey needs to be reading the criticisms of people who have been in the faith and then left, because quite often they can really speak to some of the challenges there.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense, yeah.
Do you currently go to church, Everett?
Yeah. I drive to church by myself on Sundays.
What do they say about ex-Mormons in the church?
That they're misguided, that they've lost their way. They need to be brought back in.
Okay. So just hearing that, how does that make you feel?
Well, like the emotional reaction I feel to that is that it's like normal. That's just like the way things have been since I was like a kid. But that sounds really, like logically, that sounds really freaky, kind of like this person used their will and chose to leave an organization. That was a conscious decision on their part. And then their reaction to say, oh, they don't know what's best for them, so we're going to try to bring them back in, even if it was hurting them or if they really don't want to be here.
Are you encouraged at all to talk to anybody who has left the church or to interact with them in any way?
I would say as far as we're encouraged, it's like invite them back to church. I wouldn't say there's any. Yeah, I would say the only encouragement we get is to like bring them back.
Are you? I should be more specific. Are you in any way encouraged or dissuaded to talk to them about why they left?
We're kind of told to just like not accept any reasons to leave.
So again, like just going back to if you strip and sterilize this story and use it as a model and hold it up to reality, what would you call an organization that demands very specific obedience, very specific behaviors, demands money? You have to tithe and donate a certain proportion of your income. And when people leave, you are encouraged to dismiss any reason that they leave. And if you speak to them, it is only to tell them to come back. If I told you about such an organization and I didn't call it Mormonism, what would you call such an organization?
A cult.
Yeah. So does that necessarily mean that Mormonism is untrue? No, of course not. But it does set off, for me at least, a lot of alarm bells when things behave that way. If anybody tells you not to think about something, that's the thing you need to be thinking about the most, and that's the person you need to be trusting the least. And if anybody tells you to immediately dismiss any reason for not trusting them, oh boy, you better not trust that person. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of where I'm at with it when I look at these things, is that it sounds to me, Everick, like you are being incredibly honest and genuine with us. And I really appreciate that. And it sounds like there are people here that are encouraging you to do everything but think. And it sounds like you're an intelligent enough person to not let that slide. And you're struggling with it, as you should be. And I think that Seth made an amazing point. I think you need to look into more ex-Mormon resources. I think you need to talk to people like Jimmy Snow, who was a Mormon for a very long time, and why he left. I think you need to just spend some time with yourself as well. Like, why, if this is the word of God, if this is something that's super duper true, honest, and just like this divine revelation, why is it so incredibly racist? And more importantly, why did it change? Why, when that racism became a problem, did the word of God change to fit a progressive society a little bit more closely? Why are you held to such a high standard on such trivial things to where you can't drink coffee or tea? And there are some people, I know some Mormons out there, won't drink hot beverages at all because it's just on this line where hot water might be a sin. Like, why is it so strict to where the people who leave the faith are painted as a cult? Like, that level of thought control, behavior control, relationship control, like that level of just immense domination is something that I don't think anybody should accept in any organization. And here's this one telling you that they hold the divine truth, and it just so happens to align perfectly with their own desires, and you're not allowed to ask questions. I don't fucking think so, dude. So I think you're on a great path. And I think you need to ask a lot more questions and be encouraged to do so. And I encourage you to call our show any fucking time you want. And I hope to celebrate with you the first time you drink some Coca-Cola and swear.
Yeah, thank you so much. There's definitely a lot of
Keep
thinking I
asking
need
questions.
to do.
Keep challenging. You have every right to do so, and let us know how it goes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, will do.
All right. Take care, Everett.
For those, by the way, who may not be aware of, this is a pretty well-informed audience, so don't let me insult your intelligence. But when he talks about the overt racism in the Book of Mormon, I believe it's like Second Nephi or something. There's a verse where God cursed a group of people, the Lamanites, and the curse is that their skin became dark. And so when the curse was finally over, then they became white people again. And then there's also the Lamanites or the Nephites who were evil people, and then they eventually became Native Americans. or they were descendants of the Native American. I mean, the whole freaking book is essentially, if you're a person of color, this is very bad, and potentially you're of the devil, kind of a thing. And it wasn't until the 1970s that the Mormon Church actually allowed black people to be clergy. It was illegal until the 1970s for black priests in the Mormon Church, and they had to go and make that change. Well, and as far as human history, that's yesterday. That's 5 minutes ago. And they have, red faces, and they were like, well, we don't really know what that's about. And the Lord works in mysterious ways. And then they just sort of scratched all that out, and they were hoping the rest of us would forget it. There's a lot of that in the Mormon religion that a lot of people don't know about.
No, it's the same way with the Mountain Meadows Massacre and all the other times they were just insanely violent and tried to spread their religion by the sword the same way. Anytime these religions get in power, they behave the same way. And then as soon as they're knocked down a few pegs, they spend the rest of their time being very humble and pious. And how could you speak out against me? Look at all the charity that I do. I help so many poor people, and don't worry about the fact that just a couple 100 years ago, I was slaughtering people who looked at me sideways. That's not me. That's not the reformed, beautiful version that I uphold. How dare you say you don't believe me? That's offensive to me. It's the same crap all the time.
I'm trying to think. Part of the Mormon story too is, and I'm doing this from memory, and it's late for me. It's late, but after the resurrection, Jesus Christ, before he went to heaven, he visited New York. You know what I'm saying? He literally visited this continent before he went back up into the heavens. So I'm like, well, I don't even know what to do with that. I don't know what to do with that part of the Jesus resurrection.
That there's this skit, there's this bit from back when Obama was running against McCain. There was this video that came out on YouTube. I forgot who the hell made it, but it was called like "If the Other Side Wins" or something. And it was just the extreme, crazy, super sensationalist version of what the Democrats and Republicans thought of each other. And what the Republican or the Republican side, the Republican utopia that was depicted, is something that like I can't stop thinking about today. And that right there reminds me of it. It was this school with like these like gun turrets in the classroom, like watching the children, like, and all this stuff. And the teacher is up in front of the class, and it's like, it just kind of cuts in the middle, and she's like, and that's when Jesus Christ wrote the Constitution with his blood, sending every homosexual to jail. And it's like, and that's America. And like, that is precisely exactly what it is now, and like that what they're pushing for today. And like I see that Mormon story of like Jesus came to New York to establish the stock market, no doubt. You know what I mean? Like that's what he was there for. He built he shit out the Empire State Building and started the New York Stock Exchange. And that's why we are a Christian nation to this day. And like that's the kind of thinking that as complete non sequitur, which just sticks with me. We've got two other theists and one atheist who've been waiting for a fucking long time. I'm going to see if I can find that video really quick and put it in the chat so people can see that shit. If the Other Side Wins. It's an old fucking video. If the Other Party Wins by Trump 16 years ago.
Wasn't there a Mormon video, anti-masturbation video? Which like a cartoon. And it's just, I think it went viral. but it was something that got leaked out of the Mormon curriculum, talking about how self-pleasure, is so bad. But it was so bizarre, so self-conscious and strange and culty that it sort of took off. I wish I had the link for that. I'll go look for it. So
it was an old College Humor video back in the days when the College Humor logo was like a jester with the mortarboard. It was that level of shit. I put it in the chat. Yeah, no, that's, dude, the anti-masturbation videos are the funniest, consistently just gold. I've yet to see one that is boring. Like, they are all so good. So good. Save your seed, brothers. Like, protect you in the afterlife. Man,
is sacred. I'm doing Python all night tonight. I just have Python on the brain.
That's so do the masturbation videos. They've got their pythons on their brains too. And let me tell you, to Sarah in the chat who said you'll shoot your eye out, kid, go to bed. You're done. Go to bed.
That's a life ban. That's a lifetime ban. Lifetime ban.
So good. Let's talk to Dave. Pronouns he, him, calling in all the way from India. He's a theist who says that life without theism would be impossible. Presumably we're talking about abiogenesis. Dave, you're on the line with Forrest and Seth. How are you doing today?
Can you hear me fine?
I can hear you. It's a little bit crumbly. Okay. Do you have me on speakerphone or something?
No. There's a wind going on. I'm outside.
I'm getting a lot of wind noise. I really can't hear you, and you've been waiting for a long time. I want to talk to you, but you got to get out of the wind.
Okay. How about now? Is this better?
Way better. Way better.
Okay.
All right, so what did you want to talk to us about today?
Are you guys claiming everything has already been figured out, and that's why there is no God?
Nope. No, not at all. We know a lot more than we did, a couple of decades ago. The beginning of life, we have very, very, very strong evidence for most parts of it, and we are pretty damn sure now at this point that this is something that's mechanistic and something that is totally natural. But none of that is a reason to not believe in God. We don't believe in a God because we have no reason to believe in a God. But the origin of life is something that we have a really good grip on at this point. I would say that we understand maybe 7 or 8 out of 10 theoretical steps.
Well, the thing is, the saints in my country, they just claim that everybody carries that divinity and you can just experience it. It's an experience which everybody can have.
Sure. Lots of people here in this country say the same thing, but we don't really have a reason to believe that. Can you tell me why you believe that? Is there something to that you can test?
Because the saints that we have over here, they're like Tibetan monks and the whole Asian monk culture, and then we have the Indian monk culture, and they all live with extremely low resources. Their resource consumption is extremely low, and they're literally fighting their own self from within to survive every second and every moment. They are gathering data in that stressed environment, and they're surviving through it just by the faith of God, right? So God helps you in optimizing your whatever chosen path is. Yeah.
Okay, but people survive with low resources all the time. Some of them have different faiths than you. Some of them have no faith at all. All you've described to me, you have not described anything supernatural. You've described what I would expect from people who are devoutly religious and believe that if they live with low means, they'll have more religious experiences. Similar to native cultures here that used to do vision quests and stuff by basically starving themselves and hallucinating. That's no different than any other religion. There's even Christian monks who live very, very low comfort lifestyles, that live wearing uncomfortable clothes, sleeping in uncomfortable conditions, and they believe they're getting closer and closer to God all the time. Like, people who live these monastic ways, all that is evidence that devoutly religious people will live in monastic ways sometimes.
And then they're telling you, right, that you can experience the divinity that they experience in those stressed moments.
Right, and it's a completely different divinity than what you're, and it's a completely different divinity.
Right?
No, it's not only one claim. That's the issue,
right? That it's grace. Grace is the only claim that theism has, right?
No, the issue is that Hindus and Muslims and Christians are going to have completely different experiences with this so-called divinity when they do the same things, and they have the same flimsy evidence to back it up on. So, like, if these people really wanted to convince me that they were experiencing divinity, they should keep some records of it, collect some data, and have it be something that we can actually test and demonstrate that it's not just a psychological phenomenon. It's not just something with their brains acting up during whatever experience, because we know that people have the same kind of euphoria that they get in a big church when they feel like they're connecting with God. They get the exact same feelings at a rock and roll concert because of the same reasons. The loud music and the group of people all doing the same thing together, it creates those kinds of situations. So again, this is not really somebody that's telling me that this divinity is real, and I don't understand how it ties back to the beginning of life.
Well, I would just say that America is the melting pot, right? So we can take America as the standard. And in US, we have everybody. We have people from Asia, we have people from Africa, we have all across the world. We put them in the same situations. They go through a deterministic path, but they all come up with different results. Some end up in $1 million house, some end up in detention centers, right? So their experiences are the same in when we take US as a standard, right? So then you can just put divinity in your every step that you take, because it's already a deterministic path. The path is, you're already going to have limited choices. It's not like you have unlimited choices. So why not just optimize whatever you choose?
I don't understand how this connects to a god, because like everybody here in the US doesn't have the same experience. Your experience in the United States is largely dependent on your income. And there are plenty of devout people of all faiths here in the United States that are struggling immensely, that die because they are too poor to afford medicine here, that live in poverty and homelessness. And there are plenty of people who aren't religious that are billionaires, that have all sorts of money. That doesn't really make any sense to me.
Sir, in my
and more importantly, like right. So like what I'm saying is this, all this sounds like to me, you know, we've been talking several times over the show, like about models. Like, what does this most look like? Does this look like there actually is some God that actually cares about us and is trying to show himself to us? Or does this look like we live in a capitalist hell and there's a lot of religious people who believe a lot of conflicting things and get similar experiences because that's how the human mind works? To me, it looks like we just live in a shitty world and people believe fantastic things for bad reasons, and they use those bad reasons and bad beliefs to justify the world they live in and to try to make themselves comfortable when they're very unhappy.
But if you have already figured out food, shelter, and clothes, I think that most of the Americans have that. They have food, they have shelter, and they have clothes. Even if, like, most of the people on the streets are like doing drugs and are on some drug drives. So the food, shelter, and cloth has already been taken care of, and after that, can't just people take care of themselves from that point onwards, because that has already been taken care of?
No, not necessarily at all. Because like food, shelter, and clothing sounds great, but the very, very, very minimum of those things isn't ideal. And I don't know if you're saying that like our government assistance programs are providing those. They're not. in any meaningful way. Like they're helping more than nothing. But as someone who grew up on government assistance, I can tell you it's not great. And it's not something that really provides you the ability to do whatever you want the way that people like to pretend that it does. So tell me, Dave, how do we circle back to the origin of life here? If we didn't know anything about the origin of life, would that be a good reason to believe in a God? Dave, if your phone is asleep, I can't hear you. I see you're calling in on the web caller. You need to tap your phone and wake it up because I can't hear anything you're saying. Nope. Dave dropped. I don't know if Dave had a bad connection or if Dave just didn't like us challenging what he was saying, but yeah. It's not compelling. Not compelling so far. Do you have any thoughts, Seth Andrews?
I don't know. I'm trying to connect dots, and I'm trying to remember a show where we've had so many calls that weren't connecting them. You know, he was going through. The only thing I was latching onto, maybe just a little bit, was this idea that people have gotten themselves through very difficult times in what is often a shitty life by hanging on to their faith. But I think that speaks to the human capacity for self-medication, right? We create scenarios for hope, and it's understandable. And I think it deserves our empathy. You know, somebody's poor in this life and they say, I'll be rich in the next. I live in a shack in this life. I'll have a mansion in the next. I have cancer in this life. I will be whole in the next. I lost my child in this life. We'll be reunited in the next. And I think maybe that's where he was going, but it's something you could do with any number of gods, any faith traditions. You could do it beyond religions. So, this idea that people have leaned into the idea of a supernatural interventionist or companion doesn't prove an interventionist or companion. And I think if there's any one utility to the call, it's that I think that's one of the reasons why I think we promote humanism, because as long as we live in an unjust world where people are starving and where they're dying of disease and there's infant mortality and there's rape and there's murder and there's all of these horrible social challenges, as long as there's inequity and corruption and all of these things, people are, I think, in many cases going to be more inclined to look up to the heavens and cry out and seek supernatural solutions and hold on to those sort of self-medicating fantasies about maybe one day. But I want to build heaven on earth. I want to create solutions in the here and now. And I think if we do begin to solve those problems more, people are less worried about, their physical needs. I think they can focus more on whether or not what they believe is true. They can be more whole in body, they can be more whole in their lives, and it allows them more clarity where they're not grasping at straws, but I think with a clearer head able to find out if those faith claims and God claims are accurate or inaccurate. And, I think it's just the right thing to do. So, people medicate. That's what we do. We're copers, and people have used religion to cope in a lot of ways.
I love the idea of what you're talking about, creating heaven on earth. That's one thing that I always think about whenever I'm talking to, Christians who are, we started the show bemoaning Trump supporters and things. Do you think that in heaven there is massive income inequality and people can't afford medicine and groceries and stuff? Oh, no? Okay, so would you like to live there now? Wouldn't it make more sense to try to make this world more heaven-like? Because heaven sounds, pretty fascistic in some ways, but pretty socialist in other ways. You know what I mean? It's like just, you talk about streets of gold and nobody wants for anything. It's like, these are things that, besides streets of gold, that's silly as fuck, but like we can do some of those things. We have enough resources for everybody here. So why would you want to continue perpetuating the evil that you try to excoriate with your religion, the sinful nature that you denounce every day of your life, and try to talk about how we all need to be more Christ-like? Wouldn't it be great if you tried? We could make a great world.
One of the great conversation points I have when I'm speaking to believers, especially the Christian nationalists, the hand over heart, waving a Bible in the sky, we are one nation under God believers. I always like to remind them that the guy who wrote the Pledge of Allegiance was a socialist. He was a democratic socialist, and he believed that Jesus would have not wanted income or social inequality. He would have wanted all the class systems totally destroyed. And when I say, well, you realize that Francis Bellamy was a democratic socialist and he thought Christ would have no class system, it blows their mind. They literally melt. They look like the guy at the end of RoboCop who was walking out in the middle of the road. Yeah, that's exactly what the apologists look like. And I'm here for it.
I hate that I got that reference. Yeah, no, that's it is true. And it's the same thing with Jesus himself. I'm not the first, second, or 4,000th person to make this joke, but like if there was a brown-skinned Middle Eastern socialist who came here today talking about, everybody should love each other and curing people, giving people medicine for free and all that stuff, they'd crucify him again for sure. Like there's no way that person would be lifted up. They'd deport him for not having his fucking papers.
They would.
No. And so like, it's just, when you hold up the character, and there's that's not just even a bit anymore, because I remember there's been several news stories now of like pastors and preachers that are coming forward and saying, hey, my clergy, my people keep coming to me complaining about this woke Jesus, and I'm just reading the book. And like, no, this is wokeism, this is leftism, this is evil. And it's like, no, bro, the whole time he's been over here talking about don't judge anybody and don't talk about the speck in someone else's eye until you remove the plank from your own. He's been doing it the whole time. It's been right there. And they're like, yeah, but where's the part about guns? And it's like, I promise there's none of it. Like, it's hard to get through. They do the same thing
with Star Trek. In the Star Trek, one of the newer incarnations will do something that, MAGAs despise. They're like, when did Star Trek go woke? And I'm like, you have just demonstrated to me that you have never watched a single episode of any Star Trek since 1966, right? Because Roddenberry was a humanist. Now, he's a flawed and problematic human being in a lot of ways, but we know he wasn't a God believer. We know he did have a lot of humanistic philosophies that came out. And the messaging of many of those sci-fi shows were about killing racism and about equality among colors and sexes and all those types of things, and this idea that, Star Trek only recently became woke tells me that you have never objectively watched a single episode of Star Trek since 1966. So anyway,
that's the big thing. It's like, Star Trek had the first interracial kiss on television, and Mr. Rogers, soaked his feet with his black mailman, or I think it was the police officer in his pool at a time when, segregated pools was a thing and it was illegal to do stuff like that. And like all of these like iconic people and iconic TV shows and iconic media have always been out here pushing for social progress. You've got that interview with David Bowie talking about, like, oh yeah, no, music awards are very nice. Why is there like no black person ever winning an award? What's going on with that? All these times when musicians and actors and artists were coming out here and saying like, hey, the world's fucked up. And the subtext that I'm weaving into my artwork here isn't even subtext at this point. If you're not fucking, what was that guy? Oh, fuck. That one Republican dude, he was, I think, Speaker of the House at one point, Ryans or something. I can't remember his name, but I did. And he was talking about how much he loves Rage Against the Machine. And everyone's like, have you ever listened to that band at all? Do you know what you're talking about? And it's like, just over and over and over, these artists are coming out here trying as loud as you can, as loud as they can, to tell you that the world needs to be better. And if people just don't get Paul Ryan, thank you very much. Yes, Paul Ryan talking about Rage Against the Machine. And it's like, what are you talking about? They just don't get it. And they're like, oh, well, now Star Trek's woke, and now Mr. Rogers is woke, and now Transformers is woke, and now all these other, it's like, dude, come on. I can't wait to tell you who wrote The Matrix. All you people who call yourself Red Pill, I can't wait to tell you about who wrote The Matrix and why. Like, gosh. We've got 2 callers left. This one is Naeem. I'm going to ask how to pronounce his name. I'm calling him from Belgium. This is what the thing says. This is what's written on the call screen. Theist, I want to tell you what I believe and why, and then ask, 1, what do you think religion actually is? Because according to you, it's not what it claims to be, comma, is it just a bunch of witty cavemen scraping some words, which result in teachings, together, and then granting it divinity for no reason? That's the whole call screen. That's everything that was written on here. So let's bring this person on. Naeem, you're on the line with Forrest and Seth. How are you? And also, please tell me how to pronounce your name properly.
Hey, how are you doing? It was a long wait. Can you hear me properly or not? Yeah,
we can hear you.
You said it correct.
All right.
So I didn't write that on the stream, by the way. I only put the question from what do you think that it actually is. Other part of the man backstage. But yeah, so that was my question. Actually, so what do you think religion actually? Is there something there that is made? I wouldn't say otherworldly, but is there something there, or is it just very witty dude?
So I'm having a hard time hearing you a little bit. I need you to speak up. We've got your volume maxed on our end, but we can still barely hear you. It's coming through really hard. But I heard the question, like, what do you think religion actually is? Is there actually something supernatural to it? Is that what I'm getting?
Well, is there some otherworldly inspiration that is integrated in it, or would you say it's just scam, just the entire scam?
I would say that it is humanity's first attempt at explaining the natural world. And because it is our first attempt, it's also our worst. And so we knew, as early humans, we knew that when we wanted to make a fire, we can bang rocks together or like rub sticks together and make it happen. And so then when lightning came down and struck the ground and made fire, we thought there must be some guy who's doing that. We knew that when we wanted to eat, we had to go out and hunt. And so when something came along that made an earthquake, made a rainbow, made whatever, we were like, okay, so when I do XYZ thing and I affect the world, this is a causal thing. So all these other things that I can't explain, there must be some guy who's doing these things. And early on, it was a lot of different guys. There was a god for the sun and a god for the rain and a god for the earthquake and a god for the lightning and a god for all these. And then later on, they got squished down into just one superpowered human that is somehow really good at hide and seek.
Yeah, well, I don't believe that. But I don't know the premise of the show, because is it like, can you be challenged also, or do I have to make my case and then you challenge it? Like, how is it?
You are welcome to challenge us. I would prefer to know where you're coming from and like what your belief is, but you're more than welcome to challenge us as well.
Okay, that's fine. Well, I'm a Muslim, so I reject the idea that God is a male or a human as a prostate, etc. That is rejected. We believe that it has been integrated into Christianity, mixed with early paganism to kind of make it susceptible, not susceptible, digestible for the people to accept all that, because Jesus says he's not God. He's not even good, let alone God. He says, I'm not good, only the Father is good. So we reject the idea that it's huge. God tells us that, well, of course, we don't grant religion. God tells us that he is beyond human comprehension. So it's not a dude pulling strings in the sky, but there definitely is. But you can't just believe that we poof into existence, right? Do you really think that?
No, I don't believe that we poofed into existence at all.
And I'm not a big fan of going back to we're insects who cannot understand the mind of God.
Yeah, it doesn't really do anything for me.
That's not what I said.
You're saying we cannot comprehend.
No, what I'm saying is that we only know from God that what he tells us. So he tells us why we were created, what our purpose is, what we have to do. And
Yeah,
further is not.
I mean, these are claims, but which God, in which voice, with what religion? What is the nature
He said he
of
was a
that God?
Muslim.
What is? You're a Muslim? I didn't catch that.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yes, and that's the issue that I have, Naeem, is that like, I can barely hear you, so please do speak up as much as you can. The issue for me is that like everything you've just said is stuff that we hear all the time from Christians and anybody else in every other religion, because it's largely the same. The claims are largely the same, the beliefs are largely the same, the reasons for believing are largely the same. What we're hoping for is for some reason
they do overlap, of course. Oh, sorry, what did you say?
Yeah, and like even the stories are like it's but like it doesn't really do anything for me when there's no good reason to believe that this God is real. And if this God is real, there's no good reason to believe that it's good. And more importantly, we have just fine explanations for all sorts of things that this God used to be accounted for. As I said, religion was our earliest attempt to explain things. We didn't know how planets formed. Now we do. We didn't know how life got started. Now we know quite a lot. We didn't know where the universe came from. Now we understand quite a lot. We didn't know about evolution. Now we do. So like we've understood all these things, but even if we didn't, there's no reason to interject magic to fill in these gaps. It's okay to just say, I don't know.
Well, to be fair, you said that we figured out way more things than we did in the past with modern technology and stuff. But that doesn't take away from the fact that there has been a primary entity that put those processes into that pressed the start button, so to say, metaphorically.
But there's no evidence.
Now, and let me give a very simplified. Sorry.
There's no evidence for a primary entity that put these things into effect.
Okay. What would be your? Well, evidence is something you're never gonna get because God wants our commitment. Without
evidence is something you are never going to get. Which is
you will get signs. You will get signs, and you will get
which is
clear.
Also, a claim made by other theistic faiths like Christianity.
Mm-hmm.
Trust not in your own understanding. We walk by faith. Well, you know, it's called faith because it's not knowledge. Naeem, I think we're in the business of pursuing knowledge, and so if you're going to call and invoke faith, especially at this late hour, I think. And to say that your specific God with a proper name is the cause, if you can't quickly demonstrate or prove that your specific God with a proper name was that cause, then I think we're going to be spinning in circles.
Okay, what will claim? What would grant my claim validity to the divine creator?
I can't hear you. Speak up for me, sir.
He asked what claim or what evidence could he provide, basically, and the issue here is that Naeem, if you're seriously going to take the position that we are not ever going to get evidence and that God will give us signs but not actual evidence, then I want nothing to do with this God anyway. This is a useless proposition to me. If I can't learn about something, then I have no reason to believe it. This God should never expect my belief or my worship if it's not at least going to do the common decency of giving me a good reason to believe it exists. And more importantly, as I said earlier, I don't know if you heard, but like, if this God is real, based on the description of the God and based on the world that we live in that this God is running, I'm not a fan. I don't like it. Especially the Muslim God.
That doesn't mean that he doesn't exist, though.
No, it doesn't. He could exist and just be evil. But that's the thing. If this God exists, he's a monster. And I don't want anything to do with him anyway. And you're sitting here telling me that I need to suspend the same critical thinking that affords me everything in my life. And not just me, that affords you everything in life. Every benefit of modern technology and of modern living that you enjoy every day comes from people who are demanding evidence and challenging their beliefs and moving forward with their ideas and only moving forward when they have good reason to believe in things. That's why you're able to call us over the internet right now. It's because science works. And you're telling me that I need to suspend all of that so that I can believe in a monster that deserves no worship just because I shouldn't expect any evidence? That sucks. That's a terrible thing to tell someone.
It's not really. It's not. It's a bit of a straw man, because I asked what would be evidence to you. Like what would grant my statement validity to say, okay, well, fair enough.
I'll be honest.
But,
I'll be honest. I don't know. You said what would be evidence for me. I don't know what evidence would look like, because I couldn't tell between a super advanced alien technology and your God. I wouldn't be able to distinguish it. So I can't say for sure. I can tell you some things that I would like to see, but I don't know for sure. However, if your God is real, then your God knows exactly what it would take to convince me. Your God knows my mind and my heart front and back. Your God knows exactly what to say to make me believe in it immediately. And it doesn't do that. So me not believing in it is its fault, not mine.
Is it fair for me to say that you don't want to believe? Or are you very
No,
much
it's not fair.
Idea?
I'm very much open to the idea, as I am to any idea that has evidence. If your God is real and you can prove it to me, I will change my mind right now and become a theist. I will still not worship your God, because your God, if it's real, is evil. But I will happily say that it's real. I'll tell everybody that it's real, and I will tell everybody to fight it and to rally against it. So this is a completely different conversation.
No, but you say you stated it as a fact. He is evil. But where do you get that from? Because I understood from this show that you, I wouldn't say support the whole trans movement. But in the very same breath, you say God is evil. And then there are kids out here who are 12 years old getting their penis cut off permanently. And then you say, well, this is somehow advanced and good. And you cannot.
Yeah, Naeem, that's dumb as shit, Naeem. Because number one, that isn't happening. And number two, it has nothing to do with supporting trans people. And if you're going to sit here and try to equivocate trans people with evil, you're going to have a real hard time when you learn just like the history of any culture, because trans people have been here the whole fucking time. So like, just this is where we get derailed, because clearly you've bought into some dumbass propaganda and you're trying to spread this as the reason for like there's no morality or whatever, like that we can't say there's a morality if we're supporting equal human rights for people with different gender identities. That's dumb. It's just dumb.
No,
and meanwhile, especially Naeem, especially when you're trying to accuse us of supporting whatever straw man bullshit you learned on the news that isn't real, you're going to accuse us of that while you're supporting Islam, which is the exact same story of Christianity, except instead of a magical carpenter from Mecca, you have a magical carpenter from Bethlehem. You get a magical pedophile from Mecca. It's so you're going to come in with this faith and with this morality and try to criticize our morality.
Moron, you're sitting here talking about, what are you talking about? You're sitting here saying this is all good. If you were born 50 years ago, you would declare this as the most evil movement ever, the whole rainbow movement. You would say this is the most evil thing to ever exist.
Do you know why I don't do that, Naeem? Do you know why I don't do that? It's because of evidence. It's because science has shown me that this actually isn't a problem and isn't immoral. It's actually quite natural and quite normal, and it makes a lot of sense, actually. So I am compelled by evidence to stand up for LGBT people. You are calling in with an archaic Iron Age religion, which we worship this pedophile, and you're going to tell me that I have an issue because I'm following.
Straight up incorrect.
How old was Muhammad's second wife when he got married to her?
Second. It wasn't even a second. But anyway,
Aisha. How old was Aisha when they got married? How old?
By her own statement, she says, I was a nisa,
How old?
I was a woman. You are the same people who...
How old?
Same thing you tell me.
How old?
Straw man, you putting the same straw man on it. There were no
How
calendars.
old was she?
By her own admission,
How old was she?
Also after the menstruation.
How old was she? How old was she when they got married?
16 to 17, and 3 years before that, they did the engagement.
She was 6 when they got married and 9 when they consummated that marriage.
See, this is why you don't listen. This was her own statement. When people make their own statement, they tend to distort the ages a little bit. I remember when I bought my
so
first
then
bike,
she's a liar.
No. You know what a lie is?
Naeem, I am super. I've got you on mute now, so nobody else can hear this stupid shit coming out of your mouth. I'm done listening to you, because we're at this point right now where it's impossible to tell if you're just a lazy troll or if you're actually just fucking disgusting. Either way, it's not worth our time to entertain you. You want to know where our morality comes from while you're sitting here from this position of actually it's okay to have sex with a 9-year-old sometimes? Fuck off. And you're going to tell us that we only support trans people because of the time we're born into. You're only a Muslim because of the place you were born and because of the family you were born into and because of the culture that you were born into that tells you beliefs like that are socially acceptable. We move forward with science and reason. Evidence tells us about the validity and integrity of LGBT people. There is no evidence that anything that you're espousing here is either true or good. And there's strong evidence against it. Seth, do you have anything to say to Naeem before we move on?
I think all the words have been used. I'm ready to move on to the next call.
Yeah, fucking gross, dude. You should be ashamed of yourself. And the worst part is, I don't think you will. But I do encourage you to read up on your own religion, read up on the science that backs LGBT people, and also go fuck yourself. With that, we've only got one caller left, and this caller has been waiting for 2.5 goddamn hours. They've been waiting for, I was going to say 30 minutes, but I realize it's 2 hours and 30 minutes. So let's talk to Ben, pronouns he, him, calling in from Aluminum Lizards, who's an atheist who had a specific question for you, Seth. Ben, you are at long last on the line with Seth and Forrest. How are you doing today?
Hey. Oh, good. Thanks, guys. Yeah, I was wondering about stupidity. Because I know, Seth, you've spoken a lot about how being Christian made you talk like an idiot, but also calling people idiots or stupid is a bad tactic.
That's contextual, but go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, because it kind of seems to me that, like, I don't know, when I think of people as stupid, it's like I'm giving them some critical feedback. That here's something you're stupid about, and you could get to know it better.
Ben, I don't think that's how the psychology of belief works. If you come to me and you say, I think the earth is flat, and I say, and I believe this, that's one of the stupidest things I've ever heard. If I look at you and I say, that's one of the stupidest things I've ever, and I do this in a one-on-one with you, you are going to feel attacked. And all opportunities for discussion then shut down. Now, I'm not saying that we don't ever look at someone and say, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard, but if changing minds is the goal, normally brain psychology, when it comes to identity belief, we see the amygdala fire up, people double down instead of opening up. There is no crack that lets in the light. And the point I was making with my speech and my book is that intelligent people can hold on to really dumb ideas and say really idiotic things. We all are dumb about something. And if you find anybody who's a supposedly enlightened thinker, who's supposedly on the high mountain and they say they're above it all, keep your eyes on those people because they definitely have some dumb ideas. Was it Feynman who said those who don't think they can be fooled? Or I'm paraphrasing. We are the easiest people to fool, I think is what they said. So are you asking me if it's appropriate to ever use the labels dumb, stupid, idiot?
I I guess I was wondering about, as it seems like I kind of wish that people would accept that they are stupid, and then ask why, how am I stupid, and how can I make it better? How can I be less?
Yeah.
stupid?
I mean, you just described my life. That's every day for me.
Yeah, look, I look at, I'm doing a speech in Florida, in Orlando at Florida Free Thought in 6 weeks, where we talk about part of the speech is about stupidity and cruelty and the epidemic of both in our culture. And I have a definition which stupidity is dumb ideas which produce bad results or damaging results. And that's a subjective definition that I use. But I mean, you and I both know, and I know that among some people, they say, well, you should never call someone else stupid. Those are the same people who say there are no stupid questions. That's bullshit. There's a ton of stupid questions on this planet.
There's a lot of inquisitive idiots.
I mean, is it a naive or an ignorant question? Okay, fine. But there are some stupid questions. And I think there are some people where ignorance not the word, because it's not they're not simply they haven't been denied participation in the knowledge economy, is one way to say it. They're just a few crackers short of a charcuterie. You know what I'm saying? There is something, if they go to the fork in the road and to the left over here is, this is wise, this is smart, this is safe, this is productive, this is good. And over here is, this is going to ruin your life. We all know people who will go this direction toward the dumbass ruin your life thing. And we look at them and go, what is going on? We live in a country that re-elected District 14 in Georgia, elected Marjorie Taylor Greene twice. They re-elected her.
And people want to know why we don't think there's a God.
Yeah. And so do I think stupid is appropriate? Yes, I do use the word. I think it's just fine to say an idea or a behavior is stupid, but I try not to go in the one-on-ones unless the person just being acerbic and toxic and coming after me. I really think overall we can make our point if we don't resort to petty stone throwing and name calling. But I will say on the larger stage, I will use words like idiot and stupid when it comes to people, especially those who are doing really damaging or just dumbass destructive things. I don't know. Is that unfair? Does that make me a bad person, Ben?
Oh, heck no. Because, I think the same.
It's hard. I want to have compassion for my former self. I used to think all kinds of crazy shit. I thought that the Grand Canyon was created during Noah's flood. And I used to believe that donkeys could speak Hebrew and men lived to be over 900 and that a flying chariot went up to heaven and Jesus died on a cross. And, I believed in the apocalypse and I believed in all these things. And they're just dumb ideas. But I wasn't an unintelligent person. I was brainwashed. I was a product of programming and my culture reinforcing it and all these other consequences. And I don't want to not have compassion. But I'll tell you, when I look at somebody who thinks the earth is a disc, you know what I'm saying? I mean, part of me is I just literally want to take my alien mug and I want to fill it up with something that has maybe even a little alcohol in it. And I just want to go and make canoes in the forest somewhere because part of me just...
Quit bragging about your mug. Quit.
No, this is my xenomorph mug, and I will raise it. I will raise it high. So, Ben, I don't. All I know is the emotional part of me is sympathizes. I think I try to make the differentiation between someone who is just simply not knowledgeable, and maybe they've been denied access to knowledge, and I see that more as being a victim. But if I see someone over here who is just as thick as a goddamn post, and they are constantly saying and doing the most ridiculous, dumbass, destructive things, I think it's fine to say stupid. Actually use the term stupid. I just think, I think maybe we should ear tag those people so we can see them coming from across the street. Just put a little red tag, pop it on the ear. Just let us know they're coming to make sure we can protect the children. That's my 2 cents, Ben.
maybe some augmented reality. Yeah. Let's see. There was. Dang, what was I just think about?
Quickly.
Oh shoot. Sorry. I think.
Well, I know I'm sympathetic. You've been on hold for so long, but we're coming up on the hour, so I want to make sure we're not pushing the clock too far. So.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's that. I think I almost think it's our intelligence that makes us capable of far greater stupidity than simpler life forms. Like,
there is
or even
a lot of science to that. Oh, forgive me, Ben. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh yeah. I was going to say, like, there's people who are dumber than a rock because a rock does nothing, whereas a person with a bad idea will do things that are just terrible that the rock would never do because it has.
There's a lot of brain science about how really intelligent people are often good at outsmarting themselves, right? They are pattern seekers, but then they overcompensate and they begin to create or connect dots that do not need to be connected or don't even exist. And I think this is how you can find some people who have doctorates who go out and say some of the craziest, most conspiratorial shit is because they have overcome. They are literally they're out or overthinking themselves. And then they're also very human. They're very flawed. They're not immune to bias. They're not immune to feelings of superiority whenever they feel like they're smarter than everybody else on the planet. Oh, look, I've got this secret. I'm going to go up against the man. There's a ton of different reasons for that. And, I don't want us to begin classifying people based on, intelligence and all that type of stuff. But I do think it's fair to look at someone who lives a life constantly peppered with lousy decisions and just dumb as a post, thick, stupid ideas, and use the word stupid. I think that's fair. And it might be healthy. It might be healthy to actually call it what it is. Okay.
Yeah, and sometimes the statistics accumulate enough that you might as well slap that.
I'm telling you, it's a demographic. It's a demographic. Stupid is a demographic. They are marketed to. They are pandered to. They have voting blocks. Jesus Christ. I am sometimes look up and I pray for the killer asteroid. Somebody said there was going to be a close encounter with an asteroid in the year like 2032. And I said, can we get it here sooner? Call somebody. Can we bump it and accelerate it and just end it? So I share your frustration, Ben. But anyway, I hope I answered your question. Okay.
Yeah. No, thanks a lot.
All right. Be safe out there.
Talk to you later, Ben. Bye-bye. I'm frustrated by the fact that I wanted so bad when Jimmy called me today and was like, "Hey, can you do the Hang Up show?" And I was like, "Yeah, all right, cool." I was so I wanted to take just one honest creationist call or somebody who believed that sex is strict binary. And if anybody's in the chat, I will beg Arden to open a line. Just say "Hey, yo."
I won't do it.
Hello, what's up?
You're killing me.
I won't do it.
If anybody watching this, if you're a fucking binary essentialist and you think that sex and gender are the same thing and that they're strict, I'm hosting the Sunday Show After Dark this week. Just fucking especially that fucking dingleberry that's in every single comment section that we have. It's got a fish for a PFP. It's like Jay Grease or something. Every single show we do, the motherfucker doesn't watch the shows, just post some dumb shit about we stand up for women's rights, except we don't know what women are. That's the line. And we just beg. We're like, hey, please call in. Please call in. I want to tear your ass apart online. Tell me, I want you to call in and define the word woman. And they're like, they won't do it. Just that person.
Arden
you see that?
Did? Arden is pushing us forward. She has her hands on our shoulder
damn
blades.
You.
And she was
don't
pushing
do this
us
to me
toward a destination. I know this grieves you. If
you see that fish fuck in the comment section, don't say anything besides call in. I need this person to call me. We got $50 from Tammy B with no note, but thank you so much for the monies. I appreciate it.
Wow, that's some coin. Is it Nathan Biffy? $10. Oh, this is for you. Forrest, I have a video idea for your next hygiene talk. We need to teach people to scrub their butts. It's not a credit card slot. It needs some scrubbing at least. Love you both. Keep up the good work. There's got to be a story here. Is there a story here?
I like the fact that you put an apostrophe in the word butts, so it's I had to scrub my butt is. Yeah, so I made a video about flossing where I like squeezed up some goo in my hands and then I washed the fronts and backs of my hands while keeping my fingers together like an N64 character. And then I showed how disgusting the in-betweens of my fingers were, like all this area in here. And I was like, so when you wash the fronts and backs of your teeth and not all this, and you're going to kiss somebody or talk to somebody or like what, do you not understand how disgusting that is? Fucking floss. And like so many people got pissy in my comment section, like, well, you should have done that, except instead of squeezing the goo, keep your fingers locked together while you're doing the goo, because like not a lot of food gets in there, and like brushing gets most of it. And I'm like, bitch, is it some? Is it any? Is it any food rotting in your mouth that you're okay with? It shouldn't be any. I don't know. Like you typed out this whole thesis about how like, well, really it's sugary beverages, and really you could have just said my breath smells bad, and that could have been the whole comment, and it would have meant the same thing. If there's any rotting food in your mouth, are you cool with that? And do you want to kiss your loved ones? The answer should be no. Buy some floss and use it. That's the lesson. That's the moral of the story. Anyway, yeah. And when I do one about asses,
I don't know if I trust Forrest. He thinks cats are unsanitary, and I don't know. There's something wrong with somebody who doesn't like cats.
In all fairness, I only believe that because it's true. 1999 from Will Judy. There is hope, y'all. I've organized a secular lobby day in Austin next week, and it's getting lots of momentum, including interfaith. Bolo for a light coming from Texas. I'm into it.
Austin being a place to do it. Will Judy is the hero we need. Love you, brother. Quantum Chaos, $10 Canadian, yeah. The closest I ever came to reconverting back to Christianity was Donald Trump being elected the first time, because I could not shake the feeling that he might be the actual literal Antichrist. Thanks for the super chat.
There is one. If there is one. $10 from Dante Rona. Forrest, when a population gains fitness in one environment, it loses fitness in another environment. That's true. Is that true often or always? It's always. Are there any known exceptions to this? No. So like the key is that when we talk about fitness is contextual. And so you can be the absolute fittest, most perfect organism for surviving as a boa constrictor in the Amazon. You are losing fitness in the ocean, guaranteed. And so like, no, because niches are so diverse on this planet, because there is no one set standard thing, like you pick your favorite thing that life for sure has to be able to do. Energy conversion, there's lots of ways to do that. Resource partitioning, there's lots of ways to do that. Like you just you know, there's I'm pretty sure it's pretty much a universal once you think about the diversity of life.
I'm sorry, Silver Surfers, $9.99 from either Los Angeles or Louisiana. I'm guessing Los Angeles. Thanks so much for that.
By the way, you talked about going to Free Flow. I will also be at Free Flow, and anybody can go to valkailabs.com and you will see I have a new events section which has all of the events which are currently scheduled. There are 2 more that I haven't even put on there yet because we're still figuring out the details. And also that doesn't include my upcoming trips to Borneo. So like I'm wearing my Galapagos shirt. This was our first Galapagos tour. It says Valcation #1 and written in symbols from that epic trip that we took. One of the people who came on the trip made this design, and we put it on t-shirts. But yeah, you can go on the next Valcation with me all the way to Malaysia, and we're going to go see proboscis monkeys and orangutans and sun bears and shit. Go to valkailabs.com/links. and click on the big adventure button and you'll find me there. $9.99 from Sarah Talks Podcast. I have friends that voted for him, and one of them has a daughter, and I don't understand it at all. I will go off on somebody at this point if they come to me and they're like, I had to vote for Trump to protect my female children. You motherfucker. I'll lose it on you. You just showed that you will literally support and protect a rapist over a woman. And you're going to tell her, hey, listen, y'all, you can grow up and be anything you want. Ugh.
I'm waiting for the screen to change.
Arden wants us to stay here. She doesn't like us.
$20 from Wow, JWIDERSTRA. Forgive me for not knowing how to pronounce it. Love this, helping me vent, LOL. Anyway, do either of you have some knowledge to share discussing the consolidation of power maneuvers by dictators like Mao? Is it, I don't even know how to say that, Kim, Mussolini, Putin, Hitler, etc.? Oh my God, you're going to love my speech from Florida, which we'll post later on this year on authoritarians. I'm also doing an interview with a New York Times columnist and author Catherine Stewart on her book Money, Lies, and God, where we talk about the classic authoritarian playbook that is now being used in the United States. But I'm not an expert on the dictators of our history. That would be out of my wheelhouse. Forrest, do you have a resource?
I would talk about, there's an easy little book that anybody can pick up. It's called On Tyranny by Timothy Snyder. I like this little guy. It's a quick and easy little book. You can put it in your pocket unless you wear women's pants, and you can read it in like an afternoon. And it's just a fun little 20 quick lessons. Each one of these lessons, each chapter is like 3 or 4 pages long. And these are big little pages. You know, it's just a tiny little pocket pamphlet on how to resist authoritarianism and tyranny, with lessons from across the 20th century. I like it a lot. I like the message that it shares a lot. It's powerful. It's a powerful little book. So check that guy out. Nothing else that I haven't already said otherwise. Be in person at protests if you can. That's a big one. 10 theoretical dollars from Quantum Chaos. Okay, so now I'm having to come back after my last super chat about Trump being the Antichrist to explicitly state I was not Sean, and now I'm embarrassed to have even had that correlation on the record. It's okay, we forgive you.
Sarah Christine, $9.99. Oh, Forrest, I just upgraded my membership on Patreon. Not to Seth, but to Forrest. Thanks, Sarah. Can you please tell me how to find your Discord? I go under a different name that I also ordered a t-shirt from. How do they find your Discord?
I genuinely don't know. It's linked to Patreon. When you sign up, you're supposed to get the link. I don't know. If you send me a message on Patreon, I will probably see it, and I will send you the link that away, using the invite link through the thing, and I don't know if it'll work. Patreon. I'm also never there on the Discord. As far as I know, it's just like 5 fans talking. And good for them. I also made sure to set up my Discord to exclusively be about muffins. And I don't know why I did that. I wanted it to be first and foremost, before anything else, I wanted that Discord server to be about appreciating muffins. It was about to be muffin news, muffin posts, muffin appreciation. There's an entire channel dedicated to talking about the muffins that you've enjoyed recently. So you're going to love it when you get in there. I don't know, man.
So the answer, Sarah, is he doesn't know. That's what the answer to your question.
Yes. Yeah. In vein of Seth's apt help there, we have a page and a half left of super chats. We've just gotten to like 3 pages total. We're like halfway through the second one.
All right.
So we probably want to be a little bit more concise if we can with these answers. Forrest, I love you.
The whole point is that I didn't know that Patreon was going to be a thing.
Keep it in like a sentence or fucking 2. Thank you. Okay.
Did she use the word Forrest and concise in the same sentence?
What are we doing here? What are we doing here? I thought we were friends.
Okay.
$10 from the Raven 200. Hey, Seth, I like this Forrest Villahunty guy, but have you noticed how much he looks and sounds like Forrest Valkai? Seriously, they could be twins. That's crazy. You don't know shit about me.
$10. Tammy B. Seth, you are the power of poise incarnate. Forrest, you are a fantabulous nut. Thank you for this IDK. I don't know, real magic. Is that what IDK is? Forgive me, I'm showing my age.
I don't know. Yeah, I believe so.
But it's magic. Thank you, Tammy.
You got thank you. I would have said it was nutty, but they accidentally put a space in there. You fucking, again, go to my YouTube channel, look at my video about being nutty. $10 almost from David Holzier. Seth and Forrest, you guys are awesome. Thank you for helping find the words to defend my atheist views. That's what we're here for. Yo. Happy to be of service.
Let's see. The Raven. Oh, that's cool. It sounds like a film. $10. Damn, Seth, you didn't need to be so emotional during the Steve call. No cap, though. Great show, y'all. Be sure to consensuously clap that like button's cheeks. Nice and hard. Hashtag kinky like button gang.
I don't like how real that could be.
I feel very, very bonded to you, Raven. Thanks so much for that. Appreciate it.
Yeah. $10 from Storm Chaser Noah. Cool science thing for Forrest. Limnic eruption. CO2 comes out of the H2O and can turn the H2O red because of the silt. A caller tried to explain the Nile turning red this way, but it only happens in lakes. Fucking wild. I'll look that up later. That sounds pretty neat.
Monkey, a typewriter, $10. Steve ought to know better than to step to Tommy Valkai, a.k.a. Renegade Science Teacher, a.k.a. Forrest, a.k.a. that guy who knows Gutsick Gibbon. Also, I loved Forrest's intro, but how do you really feel?
I'm going to read the next super chat, and then I'm going to grab something from the next room. $20 from Brent J. Please put this towards Forrest's facial philosophization. I was trying to read that as phosphorylation. I'm like, how am I this stupid? Forrest facial philosophization surgery. Floppy balloon guy physique adjustment not elected. Paging Dr. J Mike for an emergency consult. There's a lot going on in that comment. I'll be right back. I'm gonna grab something.
Wow, that's thick. Jessica Gallagher, thank you. $10. Hello from Vancouver Island. I'm a huge fan of you both and want to say thanks for promoting skepticism, science, and critical thinking. Any book recommendations for a 14-year-old who loves science? Oh my God. Why don't you go to my website, thethinkingatheist.com has a resources page, and there's a ton of books that I don't have them filtered by like which age demographic. I'm trying to think. 14 is right there on that bridge. I'm in the middle of an audiobook right now called Sapiens, which is something a teenager could easily digest, and it flows really well. And it's a great explanation of sort of our ancestry and how we came out of the African savannah. Sapiens is the name of the book. You might give that one a crack, and then take a look at the website. Thethinkingatheist.com has a resources page. I'll go ahead and read the next one, maybe the next till he gets
Hold
back.
on to your titties, y'all, because look what came in the mail. Look at this. Look at that. You like it? Wow. They will soon be available at valkailabs.com. I'm setting up the new merch store. This complex design is so magnificent that my old merch company literally couldn't handle it, and I had to just I just sign on with a new merch company just to sell this shirt. And so we are currently redesigning my entire merch store for this new company. So check that shit out. You will soon be able to be the proud owner of a They'll Never Catch Tommy Valkai shirt. Be prepared. I'll be sure to let everybody know when it happens.
Wow.
I commit to the bit. This took me months of work and hundreds of dollars, but it was so worth it. It's so stupid. $10 from Brandon. Hey, Forrest, any advice for those in the trans community on how to just try and keep going? By the way, I love your channel. You know what? There's only so much advice I can give because I'm not trans. And I don't know what that particular struggle is like. And I don't know what that shit feels like. And I don't pretend to. But I can say that there is quality and meaning to be found in existing purely out of spite. To say these motherfuckers want to get rid of me so bad, my very existence is such a problem. I, being happy, am so fucking scary to these people that I'm going to keep doing it. And I'm going to do it real loud and make sure everybody knows. And I'm going to do it by just being the most normal motherfucker that I possibly can. And nobody ever is going to tell me otherwise or stop me in these ways. I'm going to be loudly and aggressively and unapologetically myself every single fucking day until you fucking like it. And that, I think, is how some of the coolest social progress has been made. But again, I'm not in this community, and so I'm not going to try to speak for them. But as far as just going on, when you're going through hell, you keep on going. And when your problems are difficult, show those problems that you are also difficult.
Brent J, $10. I forgot to say include Seth. Please use this for some chopped liver. Not tracking. Not smart enough to put that together, but thank you, Brent.
We'll fucking do it. Do it is the thing. $10 from PT Colin. Had a talk with a guy who loves Pearl Jam but disagrees with Eddie Vedder's politics. I don't know these people. I know Pearl Jam's a band, I think. The next minute, he's talking about how much he loves being on TRT and estrogen blockers. I hate it here. So I'm from context here. I'm picking up that apparently this is a guy. This Eddie Vedder guy is a dick. I don't know. And somebody like, you know what? Like the Ignition remix is still a dope song, even if R. Kelly's a piece of trash. So like liking a thing, I don't know. I don't know anything about anything. You know what I mean? Just I'm not trying to judge anybody for their musical preferences.
Herbie Shine, $10. Forrest, I live in the UK, so I don't have a way of buying, sharing the red cards you've mentioned. Is there any way I can send you some money for you to buy more? I'd love to help in any way possible.
Don't donate to me. Donate to a worthy cause. Don't trust me with your money because I don't want you to do that. Donate to the ACLU. The ACLU is doing the same kind of fighting that I'm doing. Donate to people like that who are out here fighting the good fight. Don't give your money to me and hope that I do something with it. Donate to trusted institutions. $10 from Orange Laser. Oh, geez, here's $10 for the Tylenol y'all are going to need after tonight's show. Shaking my head. Smashing my hemorrhoids.
No kidding.
That's what I
John Urich, $10. Having to deal with this batch of callers was probably bad for you, but great for us. Kind of doubt that, John. But got to be Team Arden for the nicknames. By the way, yeah, the work she was doing on your lower third was epic this week. I thought she was, you had some really good stuff in there.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Epic.
$10 from the Raven 200. My favorite character from Game of Thrones was definitely Starbucks Cup. Such a wonderful and immersive performance. They made you really believe they were a Starbucks Cup. Solid 10 out of 10 acting prowess. Hell yeah.
Now, for the 8 people who don't know what we're talking about, there was a mistake made where somebody left a Starbucks cup on one of the internal tables. I guess it was in one of the castles or something, and no one caught it, and the broadcast aired. And of course, people miss nothing out there. So now the Starbucks cup that was forgotten by one of the actors has become legendary. Green Man Dave, $10. Oh, my great giddy Aunt Seth, you're so extreme. I'd love to see a couple of okay lads on screen together. Yeah, we live about 20 minutes apart, I think. See you in Sarnia. Yep. That's right. I'll be at, and you going there too, aren't you? Are you speaking in Sarnia?
I certainly will. It'll be, let me tell you, man.
The Blue Water Atheist Humanist Conference, and that's linked at my website, thethinkingatheist.com/events. So.
I'm going to Denver this weekend for the Secular Hub of Denver's Darwin Day celebration. I'm going to be at Free Flow in Orlando in March. I'm going to be at the Kansas City Oasis doing a speech there in April. I'm going to be in We Can Reason in Western Canada in May.
I'll be there.
In June, I'm going to be in Borneo. You're going to be there as well? Hell yeah. I'm going to be in Borneo for most of June. In July, I'm not flying, but I'm doing some traveling. In August, I've got my thing over there. I'm going to be at Baja Con with you in September, the end of August and beginning of December. I'm going to be at Dragon Con in Atlanta. I'm doing a lot of, come see me at these places. If you want to see me at these places, come see me at these places. Also, fun fact about Forrest, I am very scared of flying on airplanes. I don't like it. And the news right now is fucking rough. But experts be experts. And they know this stuff more than me. And there's a reason the pilots aren't freaking out as much as I am. And that gives me hope. Listen to experts, everybody. Not sensationalist news media. $10 from Zwerzdeh. Pineapple, jalapenos, and roast pork pizza is my favorite. Mine too. When most of the time the pork is not available, bacon is the obvious choice. Hell yes. I assume by roast pork you just mean some kind of pig. But yeah. Canadian bacon or roast pork bacon is the obvious choice, says Orange Laser. Hell yeah.
Let's see. Godfrey in Good, $20. Aloha. I'm debating a coworker. Is archaeology a bona fide science the same way that biology and physics are sciences? And is data science a natural science? I say 1, yes, 2, no, love you guys, mahalo. What does he mean by is data science a natural science?
I'm not a data scientist, so I wouldn't be able to say. As far as I know, data science is just super duper applied statistics. But I don't know shit about it in order to make that judgment call, so I can't solve that one. As far as archaeology is concerned, so there's different, I'm going to be quick about it. There's different types of archaeological theory and different types of way this is done. And so there's the three major camps are cultural, historic, progressivism, processual, not progressive, cultural, historic, processual, and post-processual groups of theories. Cultural historic is the most bona fide science that you can say is like clean, because it's literally just there are pots on the ground here. We know people here use pots, and that's the whole fucking thing. And then processual archaeological theory is applying science to archaeology. So it's like we can scrape the insides of these pots and we find residue from these things. And so now we can build an ecology map of these humans and what they were eating and why and what their nutritional profile looked like. We can test the lines on their teeth and understand like where they were getting their nutrients from and like what they were doing. Like that is bona fide science for sure. It's my favorite kind of archaeology. And then there's post-processual archaeological theory, which is where you get into the arts section of it, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but that's where you get like, what did it feel like to make these pots for these people? What did it mean to be a pot maker in this society? And that's where you have a lot of discussion and whatnot. And so, like, usually, archaeology is bona fide science. And I would say that the differences where it isn't is no more extreme than any other kind of like biology. It's pretty cool that way. Yeah.
Read You want me to do the next one? $9.99 from Steve. Whoa. How dare Forrest and Seth besmirch the great name of Game of Thrones, the greatest ending to any series that has ever been produced? Laughing emoji. And you should include a laughing emoji.
So for my graduate level archaeological theory class, we had to read these two books that I encourage you to check out because they cover the same topics, but they're good comparison to each other. They don't cover them in the same ways. So here I've got Archaeological Theory and Introduction by Matthew Johnson. Best definition of the word theory that I've ever heard in this book, by the way. And this one is Archaeological Theory in the New Millennium, Introducing Current Perspectives by Harris and Cipolla. And when you read back to back between these two, they're really not difficult to get through. And they'll give you a really broad perspective on where archaeology is very a science, and also sometimes when it's a little more art than science. $10 from the Raven 200. Game of Thrones. Stupid phone. I blame you. That's from the earlier one. I blame you, Jimmy. Go take a choke slam through a table by the Big Show. What does that mean? Side note, Everett's call reminded me of Aaron Ra's series on the Book of Mormon, Joseph Smith. I like that. That's very clever.
$20, Tammy B. Don't let... Oh, come on. Really? No, I can't do it.
Whatever it is.
Metamorma, Mida, Amoeba, Biosis give you hippopotamonstreiosis give... Oh, my Jesus. Watch Aaron Ra Jimmy on the Book of Mormon series. No, I'm not doing it. I can't get through that. Too many syllables. It's too late. I haven't had enough coffee. I'm cranky. I can't do it. But thanks for sending the super chat.
$10 from Girl Reading. Stay amazing. Don't fucking tell me what to do. But thank you for the money.
Sounds like you got your yearbook signed. You know, be cool. Stay amazing. $20 from Green Man Dave. Naeem, I was born 51 years ago, and I'm a proud LGBTQ plus ally and advocate, jackass.
There you go. $10 from Rufinus of Ack. I'm into that. Is DNA more like Python, JCL, or a JSON file? I don't know anything about coding. I know what an if-then statement is, and I know like the basic logic stuffs, but like in order to compare systems, zero. I was supposed to learn Python during my GIS class during my first master's, and the professor literally is just like, I don't know how to do this, and you're not going to either, and just refused to teach it. So like, I don't know. That's a great question. Maybe ask somebody who's smart, because I fucking am not.
Now the answer is 42. That's all you need.
There you go. Yeah.
Monkey at Typewriter, $10. Mr. Valkai, please tell the court in your own words how you came to be the first host of the actually defenestrated at the line. Well, it was hour 3 of our stream, and some people have no stamina.
True.
Processing. I think I'm just tired. But yeah.
I could do this all day. 6942 from Rick. Steve.
Awesome. I love the
He
sense of
just
humor.
kept going.
Jamnik 06, $10. Free flow Orlando. Less than 6 weeks. I'll see both of you there. This is perhaps my favorite event of the year in Orlando, March 14th through the 16th, freeflow.org.
It's your favorite event of the year in Orlando? Out of all the other events of the year in Orlando?
I do events. I do national, regional, and local events all year. I never do one that's better than Free Flow. It is the gold standard for me. It is absolutely stellar. And that's saying something. So.
I'm looking up right now. They had their, here we go, Free Thought Florida. Here is their promotional video. I want to just say, I'm putting it in the chat right now. It's just a promotional video. It's 2 minutes long. It's what you expect. And they sent these lines. It's like, it's all about Star Wars this year. And so like they sent these lines to Star. So I spent $40. It was more than that. It was like $60. And I bought like a Jedi outfit and recorded all my lines, and they put them in there. And I was disappointed that nobody else did. I just looked like an asshole with my cool ass Jedi robes. And then at the end also, I recorded just a dumbass Easter egg that I put in the clip reel that I sent to them as a joke. And they included it at the very end. There's a bit of me quoting Tim Curry. So enjoy that. Enjoy the cringe that is my participation in that demo reel. $10 from Space Barbarian. Thanks, y'all. Love your work. My professional expertise includes knowing how to move asteroids. Just saying. Hell yes.
How we doing, Arden? Are we getting close? $20. Jay Anderson, you're very generous. Thank you so much for the gift.
Yeah, I think we have like 8 left.
Cool.
Spam super chats now to keep us here all night.
No. The only reason I ask is because I haven't seen my sweet wife all day, and I jumped in here at 6 o'clock to sort of pinch it. And I would like to be able to see my love before, I'd like to spend a few minutes with my lady before she crashes. So yeah.
Send your super chats now to keep Seth lonely and depressed. This is your chance. This is your chance. $10 from
dinner alone, so I'm going to go and spend some time with her. Go ahead.
This is just $10 from Draven Dresden. Okay, so about that Game of Thrones ending. Yeah, I got nothing. Hashtag justice for Jake and Hagar.
$10 Jason Jones. Forrest only thinks cats are unsanitary companions because Toxoplasma gondii haven't colonized his brain. Dude probably hasn't even the cats of Ulthar. Jesus.
Oh my God, sorry.
She's insane.
Disappeared. I don't have a good memory to know exactly what powers fellid folk wield. That's impressive, Jason. Thanks for the gift and for the wordplay.
It's Toxoplasma gondii, and they're fucking awful. And you know what's funny is that they gondii, you have the two eyes there. Toxoplasma gondii, they'll eat your fetus if you're pregnant, and if you're anatomical male, strong evidence suggests that they make you take more risks. You drive like an asshole on the highway. It's because you have a cat and you need to stop it.
Okay.
Oh, fuck, it's me.
Good advice.
$10 from Sapphic Bibliophile. My bestie sister-in-law is a hardcore Trump supporter. 2 daughters, 5th grade and 8th grade. Make it make sense. I can't. I cannot.
$9.99. Vanessa Beasley. I told my mom that if I believed in Antichrist, I'd think it was Trump. Now she thinks he is Altho. Am I reading that wrong? She voted for him 2 times and is trying even harder to convert me back so I don't get left behind. Vanessa, you are not alone. I got someone tried to convert me just today, and I still feel kind of beat up, but you're not alone.
$10 from Kaleidoscope Green. Forrest, would you ever do a trip to Slavbard to see the polar bears? Also, thanks for a great show. I totally would. It all comes down to the company. I work with this company called Trova Trip. They have to design and set up the package and all the things, and I have to agree that it's educational enough to do. But if we can do something like that, I'm super down to go see some polar bears, y'all. Absolutely.
$10. Rob Irwin. I always like Seth's straight man to Forrest's goofball comedian. Also fun to extend the show with super chats. I don't know if goofball's the word I would use. I think I'm just dull.
Who the fuck are you calling a goofball?
He's exuberant, maybe. I don't know. But thank you.
Exuberant's a good word for it. $10 from Ray Gatto. I hope the Chiefs win Sunday night. It's football is happening. For the only reason of seeing a Super Bowl three-peat once in my life, I am a biff fan of football, especially when it's inflated. I guess the Chiefs have been winning a lot of football recently. I don't know.
It's a big deal. I don't follow the NFL a whole lot, but we watch the Super Bowl every year. And so if the Chiefs win on Sunday, it will be kind of historic. And I know Taylor Swift will probably be there, which is going to trigger a lot of red hats. And apparently Trump's supposed to show up, and I'm waiting to see just how many boos and hisses he gets. So, but anyway, we'll be there for that. Jasmine Bryan, $10. Hi, Jasmine. Not sure if this will make the cut, but it's 100% okay to judge people who listen to R. Kelly in 2025. Hashtag Team Josie. Sorry, Arden. Don't know the backstory, but I read it, Jasmine.
He has one good song, and then also Trapped in the Closet it's just great to watch. It's a wild ride.
All right.
You know Trapped in the Closet? You remember that?
Nope.
We'll talk about it later. It's a whole thing. $10 from Hypa. 8 super chats. Not if I can help it. Hashtag keep Seth lonely.
Ungovernable, you people. Moira Bannister, $5. They'll never catch Tommy Valkai.
Shirt's coming out within a week, I promise. I'm working so hard on the video and also finishing this shit. $100. Good gravy.
You're reading
from
that one.
Tammy B. Sorry about the long super chat. I gave myself my sincerest contrafibularities. All right. But I was, oh my fucking dude. But I was anaspeptic. I'm very stupid and very tired. Phrasmodic, even contemptuous, to have caused myself pericombobulation. Pericombobulation is a whole thing. Hippopotamonstrosesquipedaliophobia is the fear of long words. The Mormon one I made up. All right. All right. Yeah. And then that was the end of it. It's over now. It's done.
What a finish. Yeah,
now we can finally die. It's over.
Thanks for letting me play
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you for playing. Thank you for being here. It was a lot of fun. I love hosting with you. Thank you to everybody who tuned in tonight. Thank you so much to our mods. Thank you so much to our call screeners. Thank you so much to Arden for producing. Thank you so much to Phi Halo for doing the timestamps. Thank you so much to all the callers, even the ones that suck. Fucking call in on the Sunday show if you have strong opinions about pronouns, because I want to talk to you. We'll see you next time. Have an awesome rest of your day.